The emergency lights flickered once, then died completely. In the suffocating darkness of Ward 9B at Mercy Point Naval Hospital in Portland, Oregon, the screaming started immediately. But it wasn't patients screaming. It was the gunfire that came next, sharp, precise cracks echoing through corridors that smelled like antiseptic and fear. And in that chaos, the one person everyone had written off as weak, forgettable, pathetic, became the only thing standing between 37 people and a massacre. The rookie nurse they called Ghost because she never spoke up, never fought back, never existed in their world. She was about to rewrite everything they thought they knew about survival. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room is quiet for a reason. Before we dive into this story, I want to invite you to stay with me until the very end. If this story grabs you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these tales travel across the world. Lieutenant Sophia Blake, though no one at Mercy Point Naval Hospital knew that name, kept her eyes down as she pushed the medication cart through Ward 9B. The wheels squeaked. Always the same wheel. She'd meant to oil it for 3 weeks now, but that would require asking maintenance, and asking meant talking, and talking meant being noticed. Being noticed was dangerous. Heads up, Ghost! A crumpled energy drink can bounced off her shoulder. Laughter erupted from the nurses' station where 3 Marine corpsmen sat with their boots up on the desk, playing cards during the night shift. They'd been calling her Ghost for 2 months now, ever since she'd started at Mercy Point. The name had stuck because she never responded, never complained, never showed up on anyone's radar unless absolutely necessary. "Did you even feel that?" Corpsman Richards called out, grinning. "I swear she's not real, like a hologram or something." Sophia said nothing, just kept pushing the cart, her oversized scrubs hanging loose on her small frame, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun that somehow always looked like she'd just woken up. She'd cultivated this appearance carefully over 8 weeks, the slouched shoulders, the downcast eyes, the way she flinched whenever anyone raised their voice. The persona was perfect. It had to be. "You know what I heard?" Another corpsman, Jackson, leaned forward conspiratorially, though his voice carried easily across the ward. "I heard she got transferred here because she froze during a code blue at her last hospital, just stood there while a patient died." That wasn't true. None of it was true. But Sophia had learned long ago that the truth was whatever story people chose to believe. She continued her rounds, checking vitals on the sleeping patients in Ward 9B. Most were recovering Marines, torn ACLs, broken bones from training accidents, a few with combat injuries being treated stateside. Standard cases. Nothing that required her particular skill set, which was exactly the point. The clock above the nurses' station read 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until shift change. Sophia had the routine memorized. She had everything memorized. Security rotations, camera blind spots, the exact timing of the roving patrols outside. Details other nurses would never notice because they had no reason to notice. But Sophia noticed everything. The elevator chimed at the end of the hallway. Sophia's hand stilled on the blood pressure cuff she was adjusting. That elevator shouldn't be moving. The night elevator was restricted access only, required a security keycard to operate after 10 p.m. She didn't turn her head, didn't change her expression, just continued wrapping the cuff around her patient's arm while her peripheral vision tracked the elevator doors sliding open. 4 men emerged, all wearing dark tactical clothing under civilian jackets, moving with the practiced efficiency of operators who'd done this before. Not orderlies, not visitors, not hospital staff. Sophia's pulse didn't spike. Her breathing didn't change. Years of conditioning had taught her body not to betray what her mind recognized, that she was watching a threat assessment unfold in real time. The 4 men split up. 2 headed toward the secure wing where high-value patients were kept under guard. The other 2 moved casually toward the nurses' station, hands in their pockets. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" Richards called out, his voice still carrying that easy confidence of someone who'd never faced real danger. "Just visiting a friend," one of the men said, smiling. His hand stayed in his jacket pocket. Sophia finished taking her patient's blood pressure, 118/76, perfectly normal, and made a notation on her chart. Then she moved to the next bed, positioning herself so she could see the secure wing entrance in the reflection of the darkened window. The two men who'd headed that direction hadn't emerged yet. Her fingers found the small panic button clipped to her scrub pocket, standard issue for all night shift nurses. One press would alert security to a medical emergency. Two presses meant trouble. She pressed it 3 times. 3 presses was a code that didn't officially exist. A code she'd programmed into the system herself 2 weeks ago when she'd gained access to the hospital's security infrastructure during a computer training session that the IT department would never remember authorizing. 3 presses meant lockdown imminent, hostile action probable, clear all unnecessary personnel. Nothing would happen immediately. That wasn't how the protocol worked. But in exactly 90 seconds, the night shift supervisor would receive an anonymous text about a potential hazmat situation in Ward 9B, and he'd begin quietly moving non-essential staff away from this floor. Buy time. Create distance. Minimize casualties. The 2 men at the nurses' station were still talking to Richards, asking about visitor procedures, keeping him distracted. Professional misdirection, textbook insertion tactics. Sophia moved to the medication lockup, using her key card to access the cabinet. Her hands, which everyone assumed trembled from nervousness, were perfectly steady as she retrieved what looked like standard medication vials. They weren't. Hidden among the legitimate pharmaceutical supplies were 3 items she'd planted during her first week. A syringe loaded with a fast-acting sedative, a small canister of pepper spray disguised as an asthma inhaler, and a razor blade taped inside an empty pill bottle. Not much, but enough. She palmed the syringe and the spray, leaving the blade for now. Then she moved back into the ward, her oversized scrubs concealing the items as she continued her rounds. The clock read 11:52 p.m. From the secure wing, she heard a door open. Voices, tense, controlled, the kind of voices that came right before violence. Then, a muffled thud. The sound of something heavy hitting the floor. The 2 men at the nurses' station exchanged a glance. Richards was still talking, oblivious, explaining how visitor badges worked. Sophia reached the last bed in her section, a Marine corporal named Davies who'd shattered his leg during a training exercise. He was awake, scrolling through his phone. "Hey, Ghost," he said quietly. Unlike the others, Davies had never been cruel, just distant, polite. "Everything okay? You look..." "Fine," Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible. The voice of someone who'd spent 2 months conditioning everyone to believe she could barely speak above a murmur. "Just tired." Davies nodded and went back to his phone. Sophia checked his IV line, her back to the rest of the ward. In the window's reflection, she watched one of the men at the nurses' station reach into his jacket. 11:54 p.m. "Actually," the man said, his smile dropping, "we're going to need you to step away from that desk." Richards laughed. "What?" The man pulled out a weapon, compact, suppressed. "Step away, now." The laughter died. Whoa, what the hell? The gunshot was barely louder than a cough. Richards dropped, a red stain spreading across his chest. Jackson lunged for the phone. The second man shot him twice. He collapsed across the desk, cards scattering. The third corpsman, barely 20 years old, fresh from basic, raised his hands, backing away. "Please, I don't..." "Quiet," the gunman said calmly, then shot him too. 3 bodies, 5 seconds, professional execution. Sophia didn't move, didn't scream, didn't run. She'd been waiting for this moment since the day she'd arrived. In the secure wing, she heard more suppressed gunshots, shouting, then silence. The 2 men at the nurses' station moved quickly now. Their civilian masks dropped. One started working on the computer, downloading files. The other moved toward the ward, scanning the beds, looking for witnesses. Davies had dropped his phone. "Oh my God," he breathed. "Oh my God, they just..." "Don't move," Sophia whispered. Her voice was still soft, still the ghost they knew. "Don't make a sound. We have to. You'll die. Stay still." The gunman was 3 beds away. 2 beds, 1 bed. Sophia stood up from checking Davies's IV, turning slowly. Her shoulders hunched, her eyes downcast, every inch of her body language screaming terrified, helpless, not a threat. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking perfectly. Please don't hurt us." The gunman looked at her, really looked, and saw exactly what everyone else saw. A frightened nurse, weak, forgettable, not worth the bullet. "Stay quiet," he ordered, "and you might live through this." He moved past her toward Davies. Sophia's hand came up in one fluid motion. The syringe plunged into the side of his neck, depressing the full dose of sedative directly into his carotid artery. He tried to turn, tried to raise his weapon, but the drug was already hitting his system, designed for rapid chemical restraint of violent patients. He dropped in 4 seconds. Sophia caught his weapon before it hit the floor. The second man at the nurse's station spun around at the sound. "Marcus, what?" Sophia shot him twice. Center mass. The suppressed weapon coughed softly, and he went down hard. The entire sequence took less than 6 seconds. Davies stared at her, his face white with shock. "What the fuck?" "Stay in your bed," Sophia said quietly. Her voice had changed, no longer the whispered ghost, but something harder, sharper, command voice. "Don't move. Don't make noise. If anyone else comes through that door and isn't wearing a hospital uniform, close your eyes and play dead. Understand?" Davies nodded mutely. Sophia moved quickly to the nurse's station, stepping over Richards's body without looking down. She couldn't afford to look down. Couldn't afford to feel anything about the 3 young men who'd died because they'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Later. She'd feel it later. She grabbed the radio from Richards's belt and switched it to the security channel. Static. Then, "Repeat, we have shots fired in the secure wing. All units respond." The radio cut out, jammed. Sophia checked the weapon she'd taken. Glock 19 with suppressor, 15 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. Standard contract operator loadout. She ejected the magazine, checked the rounds, slapped it back in with practiced efficiency. From the secure wing, she heard footsteps. Multiple hostiles moving fast. She had maybe 30 seconds. Sophia moved to the medication lockup, grabbed the emergency drug box, the one that required 2 keys to open during normal operations. She used her elbow to smash the lock, pulled out what she needed. Epinephrine, atropine, morphine. Not for medical purposes. She drew the epinephrine into a syringe, then moved to the supply closet. Grabbed a crash cart, positioning it near the entrance to the secure wing. Pulled out the defibrillator pads, modified the settings. Making weapons out of medical equipment was a skill they'd taught her in a different life. The footsteps were getting closer. Sophia ducked behind the nurse's station, weapon ready. Her heartbeat was steady, her breathing controlled. This was familiar territory, the moment before contact, when training took over and fear became irrelevant. 2 men emerged from the secure wing dragging something between them. Not something, someone. The man they were dragging was in his late 40s, wearing hospital scrubs, unconscious or dead. Sophia couldn't tell from this distance, but she recognized him from the classified file she'd memorized before taking this assignment. Marcus Vance, former CIA operations officer turned whistleblower. Under protective custody in the secure wing, while federal prosecutors built their case against the dozen high-ranking officials he was prepared to testify against. This wasn't a random attack. This was an assassination. "Building's locked down," one of the men said into his radio. "Package secured. Exfil in 3 minutes." "Copy," a voice crackled back. "Cleaners are moving to the rally point. Make sure there are no witnesses." The second man looked toward Ward 9B, saw the bodies at the nurse's station. "Already taken care of." He stopped. Sophia was gone. "Where's the nurse?" he said sharply. "There was a nurse here. Find her." They split up, one moving into the ward, weapon raised. The other stayed with Vance's unconscious form, covering the hallway. Sophia was already moving. She'd slipped into the supply closet 30 feet down the corridor, the one with the broken lock that maintenance had never fixed. Through the crack in the door, she watched the first gunman methodically checking each bed in Ward 9B. Davies had his eyes closed, playing dead like she'd told him. Smart kid. The gunman moved past him without a second glance. Checked the next bed, the next, working his way through the ward with professional efficiency. Sophia waited until he passed her position, then stepped out silently behind him. She didn't shoot. Couldn't risk the noise alerting his partner. Instead, she moved like she'd been trained. Quick, quiet, lethal. One hand over his mouth, the other driving the syringe of epinephrine directly into his kidney. Not enough to sedate him, enough to trigger a massive cardiovascular response. He convulsed, trying to cry out, but her hand was iron over his mouth. She held him as the drug did its work, flooding his system, overloading his heart. He dropped the weapon. His hands clawed at her arm, then he went limp. Sophia lowered him to the floor, retrieved his weapon. Another Glock, same model. Now she had 2 guns and 30 rounds. Better odds. She moved back toward the nurse's station, staying low, using the medication cart as cover. The second gunman was still standing over Vance, checking his watch. 2 minutes until exfil. Sophia needed Vance alive. That was the whole point of this assignment. Keep him breathing long enough to testify. Everything else was secondary. She rose smoothly, both weapons aimed. Step away from him. The gunman spun, bringing his rifle up, but Sophia was faster. She shot him 3 times, shoulder, stomach, leg. Wounding shots, not killing shots. She needed information. He went down hard, his rifle clattering across the floor. Sophia kicked it away, then knelt beside Vance, checking his pulse. Weak but present. They drugged him, probably planning to finish him somewhere else, make it look like he'd tried to escape, and died in the attempt. The wounded gunman groaned, trying to reach for a backup weapon. Sophia put her boot on his wrist. How many? He glared at her, blood seeping through his tactical vest. How many operators? Sophia repeated, her voice calm, clinical. In the building. How many? Go to hell. Sophia shifted her weight, grinding her boot down. He screamed. I can keep you alive or watch you bleed out, she said quietly. Your choice. How many? 8, he gasped. 8 plus the exterior team. Mission objective? Kill Vance. Erase evidence. No witnesses. Who sent you? He laughed, a wet, pained sound. You think I'm going to tell you that? You're already dead. They're going to burn this whole floor. The lights went out, complete darkness. Emergency power had been cut. Then, from somewhere below, Sophia heard the fire alarm, not the normal alarm, the chemical fire alarm, the one that triggered automatic lockdowns and sealed the floors. They were going to burn the building. He wasn't lying. Sophia moved fast in the darkness, muscle memory guiding her. She grabbed Vance under the arms, started dragging him toward Ward 9B. He was heavy, dead weight, but she'd hauled heavier bodies through worse terrain. Behind her, the wounded gunman was laughing. You can't save them. You're trapped, just like everyone else. Sophia didn't respond. Didn't have time. She reached Ward 9B and called out, Davies, anyone conscious? I need help now. I'm here. Davies' voice came from the darkness. What's happening? They're going to burn the floor. We need to move everyone who can't walk. Oh God, there's like 15 patients here who... Then we move fast. Start with the closest beds, get them into wheelchairs, get them mobile, now. She heard Davies scrambling, other voices joining in, patients who were conscious, who could move. The ward came alive with controlled chaos. Sophia pulled Vance into a wheelchair, strapped him in. Then she moved back to the nurse's station, grabbed the emergency supply bag, checked the stairwell access, locked. They'd sealed it from the outside, trapped. She'd expected that. What she hadn't expected was the sound of boots in the stairwell, multiple people moving fast. The remaining 6 operators were coming. Sophia returned to Ward 9B. How many mobile? 9, Davies called back. 9 patients can move on their own. The rest need help. Get the mobile ones to the west end of the ward. Barricade yourselves behind the crash carts and any furniture you can move. Stay low, stay quiet. What are you going to do? Sophia checked her weapons. 30 rounds total, 6 hostiles minimum. Poor odds, but she'd worked with worse. Buy you time, she said. From the hallway, she heard the stairwell door blow open. Shape charge. Small, precise. They were inside. Sophia moved to the entrance of Ward 9B, took up position behind the overturned nurse's desk. She could smell smoke now. They'd started the fire on a lower floor. It would take time to spread, but not much time. 10 minutes maybe. 15 if they were lucky. She switched off the safety on both weapons. The first operator came through the doorway fast, professional, weapon up. Sophia shot him twice before he could acquire a target. He dropped. The second one was smarter, threw a flashbang first. The explosion of light and sound in the confined space was overwhelming. Sophia had closed her eyes and opened her mouth the moment she'd seen it coming, but the concussive wave still hit like a physical blow. She fired blind, 3 rounds in the direction of the doorway. Heard someone curse, fall back. Her vision was clearing, ears ringing but functional. "Contact! We have contact in Ward 9B," someone shouted. "Good. Let them know. Let them commit to this location." Because Sophia had realized something in those few seconds of violence. These operators were good, but they were overconfident. They'd expected hospital staff, scared civilians, easy targets. They hadn't expected resistance. They definitely hadn't expected her. The next assault came differently, suppressing fire through the doorway, forcing her to stay down while they advanced. Professional tactics. She counted the rounds. 30-round magazine, fully automatic burst. 60 rounds. 90. They were laying down serious firepower, but they were also wasting ammunition. The shooting stopped. Reload time. Sophia popped up, fired 4 rounds, 2 at each visible target. Both went down. 3 operators remaining. From behind her, Davies called out, "There's smoke! I can see smoke coming through the vents!" The fire was spreading faster than she'd calculated. New problem. Sophia grabbed the wounded gunman's radio from his belt, switched it to their frequency. Repeat. Primary objective complete. Vance is neutralized. We need immediate exfil. Building is compromised. She keyed the mic. "Vance is alive. Mission failed. And you're not leaving this building." Silence on the radio. Then, "Who the hell is this?" "The nurse you underestimated." More silence, then laughter. "You've got balls, I'll give you that. But you're in a burning building with nowhere to go. We can wait." "So can I." Sophia switched off the radio. It was bravado. She knew it. They knew it. But it bought seconds, and seconds mattered. She moved back into the ward. The smoke was thicker now, creeping along the ceiling. "We need to get out of here," Davies said, his voice tight with panic. "I know." "Then what?" Sophia grabbed the crash cart she'd positioned earlier, pulled out the defibrillator pads. "Help me move this to the doorway." "That's insane. They'll shoot you the second you—" "They'll try. Move." Together they shoved the crash cart into position, creating a makeshift barrier. Sophia set the defibrillator to maximum charge, 360 joules, and placed the pads on either side of the metal cart frame. Improvised electric trap. Crude, but effective. "Everyone get back," she called out. "Away from anything metal." The remaining operators tried one more assault. 2 came through the door simultaneously, coordinated, covering angles. The first one grabbed the crash cart to shove it aside. Sophia pressed the discharge button. 360 joules of electricity surged through the metal frame. The operator convulsed, his muscles seizing, weapon firing wild as every nerve in his body lit up. He collapsed, smoke rising from his hands. The second operator froze, saw his partner down, made a tactical decision. Retreat. Smart man. Sophia didn't pursue. Didn't have the ammunition to waste. 2 operators left. Maybe. But the smoke was getting worse. She could hear coughing from the patients. Time was running out. She moved to the window, looked out. 4th floor. No fire escapes on this side. Mercy Point Naval Hospital had been built before modern safety codes. Trapped from above. Trapped from below. Fire spreading. Classic kill box. Sophia's mind raced through options. The stairwells were compromised. The elevators would be locked down. The windows offered a 4-story drop onto concrete. No good choices. She grabbed her radio, her real radio, the one she'd hidden in the medication cart, encrypted and connected to frequencies that didn't officially exist. "Sierra Niner to control, requesting immediate extraction. I have..." Static. She adjusted the frequency, tried again. Nothing. They were jamming everything, full spectrum denial, professional. Thorough. Exactly what she would have done. "We're going to die here, aren't we?" someone whispered in the darkness. Davy's voice. "Shut up, we're not dead yet." Sophia almost smiled. The kid was learning. She moved to Vance, checked his pulse again. Still alive, still unconscious. Whatever they'd given him was keeping him under, which meant he had information worth killing for, worth burning a hospital for, worth dying to protect. Sophia made her decision. "Davies," she said quietly, "I need you to listen very carefully." "Yeah?" "There's a ventilation shaft in the ceiling above the west corner. It's marked with a red tag. That means it connects to the exterior air system. The shaft is 18 inches wide, large enough for most people to crawl through. You want us to climb into the vents? I want you to get these patients to that shaft. The ones who can fit. The ones who can move. Get them inside. Follow it west until you reach a vertical drop. There'll be a ladder. Go down 2 levels. The shaft opens into the physical therapy room. Exit through there. What about the ones who can't fit? What about the ones who can't move? Sophia didn't answer. Davies understood. No way. We're not leaving people behind. You're leaving them with me. I'll hold this position. Against how many? Doesn't matter. The hell it doesn't. Sophia grabbed his arm. Listen to me. In approximately 8 minutes, federal response teams are going to breach this building. But only if there's something worth breaching for. Someone has to keep Vance alive. Someone has to keep those operators engaged. That's me. Your job is to save everyone you can. Now move. Davies stared at her. Who are you? Not your concern. Move. He moved. Sophia watched as the mobile patients began climbing into the ceiling one by one, disappearing into the ventilation system. Slow, inefficient. But it would save some of them. That would have to be enough. She positioned herself at the doorway again, weapons ready. The smoke was thick now. She could taste it. Chemical smoke, not just burning wood. They'd used accelerants. From the hallway, she heard careful footsteps. The remaining operators were regrouping, planning their final assault. Sophia checked her ammunition, 12 rounds left between both weapons. She grabbed the pepper spray from her pocket, the one disguised as an asthma inhaler. Popped the top off the fire extinguisher mounted on the wall, ready to use the foam as cover, making weapons from whatever was available. Standard procedure when you ran out of actual weapons. The footsteps stopped just outside the doorway. "We know you're alone in there," a voice called out, calm, professional. "We know you're running out of options. Give us Vance and we let the patients go." Sophia didn't respond. "We don't want civilians dead. This isn't personal, just business. 1 life for 30. That's a good trade." Still no response. 5 seconds. Then we're coming in. And we're not taking prisoners. Sophia raised both weapons, steadied her breathing, accepted what was coming. Then the entire building shook. Not from an explosion. From something else. Something massive. The distinctive thump, thump, thump of helicopter rotors. Multiple aircraft. Close. Very close. The voice in the hallway cursed. "Abort! Abort! Federal response inbound! We need exfil now!" Boots running, retreating. Sophia moved to the window, looked out through the smoke. 3 Blackhawks circling the building, ropes deploying, fast rope insertion teams dropping onto the roof, but not standard federal response. The markings were wrong. These were military. Specifically, Naval Special Warfare. Her backup had arrived. 30 seconds later, the door to Ward 9B blew open. Controlled breach, professional entry. 6 operators in full tactical gear flooded in, weapons up, clearing angles. "Clear! Clear! Friendly! Friendly! Hold fire!" Sophia lowered her weapons slowly, hands visible. Vance is secure. Patients evacuating through ventilation system west corner. Fire spreading from lower floors. Hostile operators retreating to ground level. The team leader, a commander she recognized from briefings but had never met in person, nodded sharply. "Good work, Sierra Niner. We'll take it from here." "Negative," Sophia said. "This is my operation." "Your operation just became a federal incident. You're out." "I'm staying with Vance." The commander studied her for a long moment, then, "Fine. Stay close. We're evacuating everyone in 90 seconds." The team moved with practiced efficiency, securing Vance, helping the remaining patients, establishing a perimeter. Within minutes, they'd cleared a path to the roof where the helicopters were waiting. Sophia stayed with Vance's gurney as they carried him up 3 flights of stairs. She never let him out of her sight, because the mission wasn't over. Not yet. They loaded him onto the first Blackhawk. Sophia climbed in after him. As the helicopter lifted off, she looked down at Mercy Point Naval Hospital. Flames were visible now through multiple windows. Fire crews were arriving, but it was already too late to save the 4th floor. Ward 9B was gone. Richards, Jackson, the 3rd Corpsman, their bodies were still in there. Sophia closed her eyes. Later. She'd process it later. The Blackhawk banked hard, heading toward the federal building downtown. Medical teams were already waiting on the helipad, scrambling to receive Vance. But as they landed, Sophia noticed something wrong. The security perimeter was too tight. Too many federal agents, too many suits. This wasn't a rescue reception. This was an arrest detail. The moment the helicopter touched down, agents swarmed, weapons drawn, shouting, "Get down! Get down now! Hands where we can see them!" The SEAL team didn't resist. Protocol. When federal agents pulled rank, you complied first and sorted it out later. But Sophia knew better. She recognized the lead agent stepping forward, had seen his file during her pre-mission briefing, Deputy Director Marcus Kane, FBI. One of the names on Vance's testimony list. He was one of them. One of the people Vance was going to expose. And he'd just taken control of the scene. Sophia didn't resist as they zip-tied her hands. Didn't fight as they pulled her away from Vance's gurney. She just watched as Kane leaned over the unconscious whistleblower, checking his pulse, his expression unreadable. Then Kane looked directly at her and smiled. "Take her to interrogation," he ordered. "I want to know everything. Who sent her? Who she's working for? Everything." As they dragged her toward the building, Sophia allowed herself one small, satisfied smile, because Kane had just made a critical mistake. He'd kept her alive, and that meant he didn't know who she really was. Didn't know that her team was already moving into position. Didn't know that every word he'd spoken had been recorded by the microphone built into her hospital ID badge. Didn't know that in approximately 12 minutes, his entire operation was going to collapse around him. They threw her into an interrogation room. Concrete walls, metal table, one-way mirror. Classic setup. 2 agents took positions by the door, armed, alert. Sophia sat quietly, hands still zip-tied, looking down at the table, playing the role one last time. The frightened nurse, the nobody, the ghost. The door opened. Kane walked in, carrying a file folder. He sat down across from her, studied her face. "I'm going to ask you some questions," he said calmly, "and you're going to answer them. Understand?" Sophia said nothing. "Who are you working for? NSA? CIA? Some private contractor?" Silence. "You're in serious trouble. You killed 8 men tonight. Federal property destroyed. You're looking at life in prison unless you cooperate." Still nothing. Kane's expression hardened. "You think you're protecting Vance? You think you're some kind of hero? Let me explain something to you. Marcus Vance is a traitor. He stole classified information. He was planning to sell it to foreign governments. Everything he told prosecutors was lies, and you just helped a criminal." Sophia finally looked up, met his eyes directly. "You done?" she asked quietly. Kane blinked. "What?" "Your speech. You done?" "I'm trying to help you." "No, you're not. You're trying to figure out how much I know, how much damage control you need to do. Whether you can make me disappear quietly, or if you need to stage something public." Kane's face went very still. Sophia continued, her voice calm, almost conversational. "You're wondering if I'm official or unofficial, if I have backup or if I'm alone, if there's someone you can call to make this go away, or if you're going to have to get your hands dirty personally. You need to stop talking. The answer is yes, by the way. I have backup. They're already here. And in about..." She glanced at the clock on the wall. 4 minutes, they're going to walk through that door with paperwork that's going to make your life very complicated. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Kane stood up abruptly, walked to the door, spoke quietly to someone outside. Sophia waited. 3 minutes. The door opened again. A different man entered, older, wearing a civilian suit but moving like military. Stars and stripes lapel pin that marked him as executive branch. He looked at Sophia, then at Kane. "Deputy Director," he said quietly, "I need you to step outside. This is an FBI facility. This is my investigation." "Not anymore, it isn't." 2 more men entered, both wearing the distinctive badges of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Both armed. "What the hell is this?" Kane demanded. The older man pulled out credentials. Special Counsel Thomas Wright, Department of Defense Inspector General. As of 2300 hours tonight, this facility and everyone in it is under federal investigation for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and attempted murder of a federal witness. You're relieved, Deputy Director. Effective immediately. Kane's face went white. Take him, Wright ordered. The DIA agents moved forward. Kane backed away, hands up. You can't do this. I have oversight. I have authority. You had authority, Wright said coldly, until you tried to kill a whistleblower in federal custody. I didn't. I wasn't. We have recordings, video, communications intercepts, and we have her. Wright gestured at Sophia. Now move before I add resisting arrest to your charges. They dragged Kane out, still protesting. Wright turned to Sophia, produced a small knife and cut her zip ties. Lieutenant Commander, he said quietly. You okay? Yes, sir. Vance? Secured. Medical says he'll recover. Good. Wright sat down where Kane had been sitting moments before. That was reckless. Going in alone. No backup. No authorization. There wasn't time for authorization. You could have been killed. I wasn't. Wright almost smiled. No, you weren't. Did you get what we needed? Sophia pulled a small data chip from inside her cheek. Waterproof, shock-resistant, the kind that could survive just about anything. She'd been carrying it there for the past 4 hours. Communications intercepts from all 8 operators, radio frequencies, encryption codes, and a full recording of Kane's conversation with his handlers before the attack. Wright took the chip carefully. This is enough? More than enough. You'll have the entire network by morning. Outstanding. He stood up. You're done here. Get cleaned up. Get some rest. I'll handle the aftermath. What happens to the hospital staff? The ones who died? Wright's expression softened slightly. They'll be honored. Full military honors. Their families will be taken care of. I promise. Sophia nodded. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. She stood to leave, then paused. Sir? How did you get here so fast? We didn't. We've been outside for the past 2 hours. 2 hours? Why didn't you? Because we needed you inside. Needed someone they wouldn't suspect. Someone who could get close to Vance, confirm he was alive, and draw out everyone involved. Wright met her eyes. You were bait, Commander. From the beginning. Sophia processed that. Kane? We've been watching him for months, but we needed proof. Needed him to make a move. Tonight gave us that. The 8 operators who died? Contractors? Mercenaries. Already wanted in 3 countries. The world's better off. The hospital staff weren't contractors. No, they weren't. Wright's voice was heavy. That's on us. On me. We should have moved faster. Yes, sir. You should have. Wright didn't flinch from her anger, just accepted it. Get some rest, Commander. You've earned it. Sophia walked out of the interrogation room. Her legs were shaking now, adrenaline crash hitting hard. She'd been running on pure discipline for the past 6 hours. In the hallway, she saw familiar faces. Her actual team, the SEAL operators who'd extracted her from the hospital. They nodded as she passed. Respect between professionals. One of them, a lieutenant she'd worked with before, fell in beside her. Hell of a night, he said. Yeah. We heard about the ward, about what you did. Sophia didn't respond. Just so you know, those Marines you saved, Davies and the others, they're already talking, spreading the word about the nurse who fought back. They don't know who I am. No. But they know what you did, and that's going to follow you. It shouldn't. Maybe not, but it will. They reached the exit. Outside, dawn was breaking over Portland. The sky was orange and pink, beautiful in a way that felt wrong after everything that had happened. Sophia took a deep breath of clean air, her first in hours. What now? The lieutenant asked. Now I disappear. Again. Back under cover? Eventually. After debrief. After they clean up this mess. And if they can't clean it up? Sophia looked at him. Then I go public. Tell the truth about what happened. About Vance. About Kane. About all of it. That'll end your career. Better than letting them bury it. The lieutenant smiled. You really are a pain in the ass, you know that? So I've been told. He handed her a phone, secure, encrypted. Call if you need anything. Anything at all. I will, thanks. She walked away, heading toward the civilian lot where her car was parked. Just another hospital worker heading home after a long shift. Nobody looked twice, because that was her gift, her curse. Being invisible. Being the ghost. And as she drove through Portland's empty morning streets, Sophia allowed herself to think about what came next. A different hospital, a different name, a different life. Until the next time someone needed a ghost, until the next Marcus Vance needed protection, until the next corrupt official made the mistake of thinking she was just a nurse, just a nobody, just someone they could ignore. She smiled grimly at that thought. They always learned eventually, usually right before the end. But somewhere in the glass towers of downtown Portland, in a corner office 30 floors above the street, someone else was smiling too. Senator Richard Castellano stood at his window, watching the sunrise paint the city gold, and considered how quickly everything had fallen apart. His private phone, the one only 6 people in the world had the number to, buzzed in his pocket. He didn't answer it. He already knew what they were going to say. Kane was compromised. The hospital operation had failed. Vance was still alive. 8 contractors dead. Federal investigation opened. Inspector General involved. A disaster. But disasters, Castellano had learned over 30 years in Washington, were simply opportunities viewed from the wrong angle. He pressed the intercom on his desk. "Sir?" His aide answered immediately. Too immediately. The young man had probably been awake all night, watching the news feeds, waiting for this exact call. "Schedule a press conference, 10 a.m., steps of the federal courthouse." "Sir, are you sure that's—" "Do it. And get me Senator Brooks, Congressman Valdez, and the Attorney General. Conference call in 20 minutes. "Yes, sir." Castellano hung up and returned to the window. From here he could see Mercy Point Naval Hospital in the distance, or what remained of it. Smoke still rose from the blackened 4th floor. Fire crews had contained it, but the damage was done. Perfect. Nothing unified public opinion like a tragedy, and nothing deflected investigation like righteous anger pointed in the right direction. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. "Talk. We have a problem." The voice on the other end belonged to Colonel Raymond Moss, Defense Intelligence Agency. One of the few people Castellano actually trusted, because Moss was smart enough to know that trust was just mutually beneficial self-interest. "I'm aware." Kane was sloppy. "The recordings don't mention names on this line. The recordings implicate the entire network. If they decrypt those communications, they won't." "You sound confident." "Because I am." Kane was a useful idiot. He's already been cut loose. By noon today, he'll be the face of this entire operation. Rogue FBI agent operating outside authority, attempting to silence a whistleblower. The narrative writes itself. Silence on the line. Then, "What about the nurse?" Castellano smiled. "What nurse? Don't play games. The one who held off 8 contractors. The one who saved Vance. I read the preliminary reports. Nurse Emily something, probably some prior military experience. Got lucky. Heroic civilian caught in the wrong place at the wrong time." "That's not what I'm hearing." "Then you're hearing wrong, or you're listening to people who don't understand how information works. By the time I'm done, she'll be a footnote. A minor character in Kane's story. And if she talks? To who? About what? She's a nurse. She fought off some attackers. She saved lives. She's a hero. Heroes don't complicate narratives. They simplify them." Moss didn't sound convinced. "I hope you're right." "I'm always right. That's why you work for me." Castellano ended the call before Moss could respond. The truth was more complicated, of course. It always was. The nurse, whoever she really was, had disrupted a carefully planned operation, had saved Marcus Vance when he should have died quietly in that hospital fire, had created exactly the kind of chaos that led to investigations, exposure, consequences. But chaos could be managed, directed, weaponized. Castellano had spent 3 decades mastering that particular skill. His second phone, the official one, the one connected to his Senate office, rang. He checked the caller ID. Special Counsel Thomas Wright. Interesting. He answered. "Counselor, I was just about to call you." "I'm sure you were, Senator." Wright's voice was professionally neutral, carefully controlled. "I wanted to inform you personally that Deputy Director Kane has been placed in federal custody pending investigation." Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Marcus was a dedicated public servant. Marcus Kane was a criminal. We have evidence of conspiracy, obstruction, attempted murder. Evidence can be interpreted many ways. Not this evidence. Castellano let the silence stretch. Then, what do you want, Thomas? I want you to stay out of this investigation. I'm a United States Senator. Oversight is my constitutional duty. This isn't oversight. This is damage control. And I'm telling you now, it won't work. Is that a threat? It's a warning. We know about the network. We know about the money. We know about the contractors. And we're going to follow this investigation wherever it leads. Even if it leads nowhere, it won't lead nowhere. You sound very confident for a man holding circumstantial evidence and the testimony of a known criminal. Wright's voice hardened. Marcus Vance is not a criminal. He's a whistleblower. And he's going to testify in open court, under oath. And when he does, everyone involved in this conspiracy is going to prison. If he lives that long. The words hung in the air between them. Wright spoke very quietly. Did you just threaten a federal witness? I stated a fact, Mr. Vance has many enemies. Some of them might try again. I hope your protection detail is more effective than the last one. We'll manage. I'm sure you will. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a press conference to prepare. Castellano hung up. He was smiling again because Wright had just confirmed everything Castellano needed to know. Vance was alive, conscious, and preparing to testify. The investigation was active but not complete. They had evidence but not enough to move immediately, which meant there was still time. Time to reposition, reframe, redirect. Time to turn a disaster into an opportunity. Castellano pressed the intercom again. Get me the communications director and find out everything about the nurse from Mercy Point. Everything. Background, history, family, debts, secrets. I want it on my desk in 2 hours. Yes, sir. He returned to the window one last time, watching the city wake up below him. Somewhere down there, that nurse was going about her life, thinking she'd won, thinking she'd saved the day. She had no idea what was coming. None of them did. Across town, in a safe house that didn't appear on any federal database, Sophia sat in a debriefing room answering the same questions for the third consecutive hour. Walk me through the moment you identified the threat. She'd answered this already, twice. But she answered again because this was the process. Because thorough documentation now meant fewer questions later. Elevator access at 23:47 hours. 4 individuals. Tactical bearing, concealed carry. Split formation immediately upon entry, 2 toward secure wing, 2 toward nurses' station. Professional insertion tactics. The debriefer, a DoD analyst named Harrison, who looked like he'd never missed a meal or a night's sleep in his comfortable office life, typed slowly on his laptop. And you immediately activated emergency protocol? 3 press panic button, non-standard code. Initiated quiet evacuation procedures. Why non-standard? Standard code alerts security. Security was potentially compromised. But you didn't know that for certain. I knew enough. Harrison looked up from his laptop. That's not very specific, Commander. Specificity comes from certainty. I didn't have certainty. I had probability assessment and tactical intuition. Tactical intuition isn't admissible in court. I'm not in court. Harrison sighed, closed his laptop. Look, I understand you did what you thought was necessary, but we're trying to build a case here, a legal case, and that requires documentation, evidence, clear chain of reasoning. You have recordings, you have physical evidence, you have 8 dead contractors and 1 live witness. What more do you need? We need your testimony to be airtight, because when this goes to trial, defense attorneys are going to tear apart every inconsistency, every gap, every moment where you acted on instinct instead of procedure. Sophia leaned back in her chair. Then maybe we shouldn't go to trial. Excuse me? If the case is that weak, if it relies that heavily on my ability to justify split-second decisions made during an active shooting situation, then maybe the evidence isn't as solid as you think. Harrison's jaw tightened. The evidence is solid. Then stop treating me like I'm the weakness in it. The door opened before Harrison could respond. Special Counsel Wright entered, carrying a tablet and looking like he'd aged 5 years since their brief conversation in the interrogation room 6 hours ago. Take a break, Harrison. The analyst gathered his laptop and left without argument. Wright sat down, slid the tablet across the table to Sophia. We have a problem. On the screen was a news article, published 20 minutes ago. The headline read, Hero nurse saves lives in hospital attack. Below it, a photo of Sophia taken from her hospital ID badge, enlarged and grainy but unmistakably her. How did they get that? She asked quietly. Someone leaked it, probably from hospital administration before we could lock down their files. You're supposed to be controlling information flow. I'm trying, but this is bigger than I anticipated. Every news outlet in the country is running the story. Local stations have reporters camped outside your apartment. Someone already tracked down your landlord and offered him $5,000 for an interview. Sophia read the article. It was mostly accurate. Nurse fights off attackers, saves patients, heroic civilian caught in wrong place. Exactly the narrative Castellano had predicted. Exactly the narrative that would destroy her cover. I need to disappear, she said. Already arranged. We have a secure location ready. New identity, new assignment. No. Wright blinked. No? I'm staying. Commander, that's not advisable. Your face is now associated with this incident. Every intelligence service in the world is going to run facial recognition on this photo. Your cover is burned. Let them run it. They won't find anything. They'll find enough. Military records can be scrubbed but not erased. Someone will make connections. Then I'll deal with it when they do. Wright studied her face. Why? Why risk exposure? Because if I run now, it confirms I'm more than just a nurse. It validates suspicion. But if I stay, if I accept the hero narrative, if I do the interviews and the press conferences and play the role they've assigned me, then I become exactly what the story says I am, a civilian who got lucky. That's a dangerous game. It's the only game that works. Wright was silent for a long moment. Then, you'd have to commit, fully. No breaking character, no classified contacts, no access to intelligence networks. You'd truly be alone. I've been alone before. Not like this, not with this level of scrutiny. Sophia met his eyes. What does Vance say? About testifying? He's willing, eager even. He wants to see this through. Then I'll stay close, make sure he gets that chance. We have protection. Your protection failed once already. I'm not taking that risk again. Wright's expression hardened. That wasn't our failure. That was deliberate sabotage from inside the FBI. We've secured the network since then. Have you? Because I'm reading about my identity in the news right now. Someone leaked that photo. Someone is still talking. Wright couldn't argue with that. Sophia continued. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to stay in Portland. I'm going to do exactly one carefully controlled interview. Local news, human interest story, nothing classified. I'm going to thank the first responders, praise the brave patients who helped evacuate, and deflect all questions about my background with humble confusion. Just a nurse who did what anyone would do. And then? Then I go back to work. Different hospital, different ward. Somewhere public, somewhere visible. Where anyone watching can see I'm just continuing my normal life. That puts you at risk. I'm already at risk. This way at least I'm visible. Harder to disappear someone the whole country knows about. Wright considered this. You'd need support, surveillance, someone watching your back. Agreed. And the moment we detect a credible threat, you extract. No arguments. Acceptable. Wright nodded slowly. I'll make it happen. But Commander, if this goes wrong, if they identify you, if your real background surfaces, then I'll deal with it, like I dealt with last night. Last night you had element of surprise. Next time you won't. Next time they'll underestimate me again. Because that's what they do. That's what they've always done. Wright almost smiled at that. The quiet ones are always dangerous. Someone should have warned them. He stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, what you did last night, saving those patients, protecting Vance, that took more than training, that took courage. It took necessity. There's a difference. Not always. After Wright left, Sophia sat alone in the debriefing room for another 20 minutes. Just thinking. Processing. The smart play was to disappear. Take the new identity, the new assignment, vanish into the bureaucratic machinery that had hidden her for the past 5 years. But the smart play meant abandoning Vance, meant trusting other people to keep him alive long enough to testify. And Sophia had learned the hard way that trust was just another word for acceptable risk. She wouldn't risk Vance's life on someone else's competence. The door opened again. This time, it was the SEAL lieutenant from earlier, the one who'd given her the encrypted phone. "Heard you're staying," he said. "Word travels fast. Small community. Everyone's talking about the crazy nurse who charged 8 contractors with nothing but medical supplies and audacity. I had 2 guns. After you took them. Doesn't count." Sophia almost smiled. "What do you want, Lieutenant?" "Name's Garrett, and I want to make sure you understand what you're walking into." "I understand perfectly." "Do you?" "Because the people behind last night's attack, they're not going to stop. They're going to come at Vance again, and next time they'll be smarter, better prepared." "I'm counting on it." Garrett stared at her. "You want them to try again." "I want them to expose themselves." Last night was professionals hired through cutouts, anonymous contractors, dead ends. But if they're desperate enough to try again, they'll make mistakes, leave trails, lead us back to whoever's funding this. Or they'll just kill you both and burn the evidence. They'll try. Garrett shook his head. "You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the craziest." "Can I be both?" He laughed at that. Actually laughed. "All right, I'm in." "In what?" "Your plan. Whatever insane thing you're planning, I'm in. You're going to need backup, and Wright's official channels are too slow, too compromised. But my team, we're off book, freelance. We can move faster. I don't have authorization to hire contractors." "Who said anything about hiring? Consider it professional courtesy, one operator to another." Sophia studied him. "Why?" "Because what happened last night was personal. 3 hospital staff died. Good people. And whoever ordered that attack is still walking around free. That doesn't sit right with me. This isn't about revenge. No, it's about justice. But I'll settle for putting the people responsible in the ground." Sophia considered this. Unauthorized backup was risky. But Garrett was right about one thing. Official channels were too slow, too bureaucratic, too many opportunities for information to leak. "What's your team's operational capacity?" 4 operators plus myself. All SEAL Team 3, all combat experienced. Surveillance, close protection, direct action if necessary. Rules of engagement? Defend, detain, deploy force only when civilian lives are at immediate risk. No cowboy shit, Garrett grinned. No cowboy shit, Scout's honor. You were never a scout. How do you know? Scouts don't become SEALs. They become Eagle Scouts and then accountants. He laughed again. All right, you got me. But the offer stands. You want eyes on Vance? You want someone watching your back while you play hero nurse for the cameras? My team can do that. Sophia made her decision. 48 hours, trial run. If it works, we continue. If it doesn't, you walk away clean. Deal. They shook hands. After Garrett left, Sophia finally allowed herself to feel the exhaustion creeping in. She'd been awake for 26 hours, running on adrenaline and training and sheer stubborn refusal to stop moving, but she couldn't stop yet. She pulled out the encrypted phone Garrett had given her earlier, scrolled through the contacts, all code names, no real identities, found the one she needed, pressed dial. 3 rings. Then, Sphinx. It's Sierra Niner. Figured you'd call eventually. Saw the news. Hell of a night. Sphinx was an intelligence analyst Sophia had worked with during her previous assignment. Former NSA, now working private sector. One of the few people who knew her real background. I need information, Sophia said. Always do. What kind? Senator Richard Castellano. Full background. Financial records, communications metadata, travel history for the past 2 years, everything you can access without leaving prints. Silence on the line. Then, that's a big ask. Castellano's powerful, connected, the kind of target that gets people killed. I know. You really think he's involved? I think last night's attack was too coordinated, too well funded, too precisely timed to be anything except institutional. And institutional means political. Castellano's name came up in Vance's preliminary testimony. I want to know why. This is going to take time, resources, and it's going to cost you. How much? Not money, information. I help you with this, you owe me a favor. No questions asked. No time limit. Dangerous terms. Open-ended favors in the intelligence community had a way of becoming permanent obligations. But Sophia didn't have better options. Agreed. Smart girl. I'll have preliminary data within 24 hours. Deep dive might take a week. I might not have a week. Then I'll work faster. Stay alive, Sierra Niner. The line went dead. Sophia sat back, closed her eyes, let herself feel the weight of what she'd just set in motion. She was committing to a path that led directly into the heart of a political conspiracy, without official authorization, without backup she could fully trust, with nothing but her training and the thin hope that she could stay alive long enough to see it through. Reckless, dangerous, probably stupid, but necessary. Because if she'd learned anything in her years operating in the shadows, it was that justice didn't happen by accident. It required people willing to step forward when everyone else stepped back. People willing to risk everything for the chance, just the chance, of making things right. People like her, people like Vance, people like Richards and Jackson and that young corpsman whose name she hadn't even learned before he died. She owed them this, owed them more than this. But this was all she had to give. Sophia stood, stretched muscles that ached from tension and violence, walked to the window of the safe house. Outside, Portland was fully awake now. Traffic building, people going to work, normal lives unfolding normally. They had no idea what had happened last night in their city, what had almost happened, what was still happening. Somewhere in those glass towers downtown, Castellano was planning his next move. Somewhere in a federal holding facility, Kane was being interrogated. Somewhere in a secure medical ward, Vance was recovering, preparing to testify. And somewhere in the shadows, the people who'd ordered last night's attack were watching, waiting, calculating their next attempt. The game wasn't over. It had barely begun. Sophia's phone buzzed, text message from a number she didn't recognize. Press conference in 2 hours. Federal courthouse steps. Vance is going to make a statement. She stared at the message. No signature, no identification. But she knew what it meant. Vance was going public, early, before the investigation was complete, before protections were fully in place, either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Probably both. She texted back, "Too dangerous. Wait for proper security." The response came immediately. "Can't wait. They're moving to shut this down. If I don't speak now, I never will." Sophia cursed under her breath, grabbed her jacket, headed for the door. Someone stopped her in the hallway, one of Wright's security team. "Commander, you're supposed to remain in the safe house until emergency. Vance is making a public statement in 2 hours." The guard's expression shifted. "We weren't informed of any..." "Neither was I." Which means either Wright approved it without telling us or Vance is going rogue. Either way, I need to be there. "My orders are to keep you here." Sophia met his eyes. "Then you're going to have to stop me." They stared at each other for 3 long seconds. The guard stepped aside. "I didn't see you leave." "Smart man." Sophia walked out of the safe house into the bright Portland morning. No disguise, no cover. Just a tired woman in rumpled clothes heading toward what might be the most dangerous press conference in federal history. The federal courthouse was already crowded when she arrived. News vans lined the street, reporters jockeying for position, cameras everywhere. Sophia stayed back, watching from across the street, scanning faces, looking for threats. She spotted Garrett and his team immediately. They'd positioned themselves in a loose perimeter around the courthouse steps. Professional, unobtrusive, exactly where she would have positioned them. No sign of Wright, no sign of official security. This was wrong, all wrong. At exactly 10 a.m., the courthouse doors opened. Marcus Vance walked out, flanked by 2 federal marshals. He looked terrible, pale, shaking, barely able to stand. But he was standing. That counted for something. The crowd surged forward, cameras flashing, questions shouted. Vance raised one hand. The noise died down slightly. "My name is Marcus Vance," he began, his voice hoarse but carrying. "And I'm here to tell you the truth about what happened at Mercy Point Naval Hospital last night." Sophia tensed. This was it. The moment everything changed. "I was being held in protective custody because I witnessed criminal activity by senior government officials. Officials who abused their positions, who stole classified information, who endangered national security for personal profit." The crowd erupted. More questions, more cameras. Vance continued over the noise. Last night, those same officials sent contractors to kill me, to silence me before I could testify. They killed hospital staff, they endangered patients, they burned a federal facility to cover their tracks. A reporter shouted, "Who? Who ordered the attack?" Vance looked directly into the cameras. Senator Richard Castellano, Deputy Director Marcus Kane, and 12 other officials whose names I've provided to federal investigators. Chaos. Complete chaos. And in that chaos, Sophia saw movement. A man in the crowd, not a reporter, not a civilian, moving with purpose, hand reaching into his jacket. She was running before conscious thought caught up. "Gun!" she screamed. "He's got a gun!" The crowd scattered. The gunman turned, saw her coming, made his choice. He fired at Vance. Sophia tackled him mid-shot. They went down hard onto the concrete. The gun skittered away. She rolled, came up on top, drove her elbow into his face once, twice, 3 times until he stopped fighting. Garrett and his team were there seconds later, securing the gunman, sweeping for additional threats. Sophia looked up. Vance was down, blood spreading across his shirt. One of the federal marshals was screaming into his radio. The other was applying pressure to the wound. The cameras captured everything, every second, every drop of blood. The quiet nurse tackling an assassin in broad daylight, saving the whistleblower's life. Again. And somewhere in a corner office 30 floors above the street, Senator Richard Castellano watched the news coverage and understood with perfect clarity that he'd just lost control of the narrative. The nurse wasn't a footnote anymore. She was the story, and that changed everything. The ambulance doors slammed shut with Vance inside, and Sophia found herself standing in the center of a hurricane of cameras, questions, and chaos she couldn't control. Blood streaked her hands, his blood, the gunman's blood. She wasn't sure anymore. A reporter shoved a microphone in her face. "Miss, are you the nurse from last night? Did you just save Marcus Vance's life again?" She didn't answer, just turned and walked toward the federal courthouse entrance where Garrett was restraining the would-be assassin against a concrete pillar. The man's face was a mess, nose shattered, eyes already swelling shut. But he was conscious, talking. "You don't understand what," the gunman was saying through broken teeth. "You don't understand what you've done. They'll kill everyone. Everyone connected to this." Garrett pressed harder against his shoulder. "Who's they?" "Everyone. The whole network. You think this ends with Castellano? He's just one piece. One small piece of something so much bigger." Federal marshals arrived, took custody of the prisoner. Garrett released him reluctantly, then turned to Sophia. "You good?" "No, where's Wright?" "Haven't seen him since this morning. This whole thing, the press conference, Vance going public, none of it was coordinated through official channels. Someone set him up, leaked the time and location, made sure there'd be maximum coverage when the shooter made his attempt. Question is who? Someone wanting Vance dead or someone wanting public spectacle?" Sophia watched the ambulance pull away, sirens screaming. Both kill the witness, create chaos, discredit the investigation all at once. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sphinx. "You need to see this. Link attached." She opened it. Financial records, bank transfers, shell companies moving money through 3 countries. And at the center of it all, one name that appeared over and over. Not Castellano. Someone higher. Admiral Theodore Briggs, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Sophia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. If Briggs was involved, this wasn't just political corruption. This was institutional rot at the highest levels of military command. "We're in over our heads," she said quietly. Garrett looked at the phone screen. Jesus Christ. He can't help us. Sophia pocketed the phone. "I need to get to the hospital. Need to make sure Vance survives surgery." "You're burned. Every camera in Portland just recorded your face. You can't operate in the open anymore." "Watch me." She started walking. Garrett fell in beside her. "My team's already moving to the hospital. We'll set up a perimeter." "But Sophia, if what's on that phone is real, if Briggs is actually running this network, then killing me becomes a national security priority." "I know. Drive faster." They reached Garrett's vehicle, an unmarked SUV parked 2 blocks away. Climbed in. He pulled into traffic with the kind of controlled aggression that came from high-speed pursuit training. Sophia's phone rang. "Right. Where the hell are you?" His voice was razor-sharp, angry. You were supposed to stay in the safe house. Vance was shot. I'm heading to the hospital. I know he was shot. It's on every news channel in the country. And you're right there in the footage, tackling the shooter, playing hero again. Would you have preferred I let him die? Wright's silence was answer enough. The press conference wasn't authorized, Sophia continued. Someone leaked the information. Set Vance up as a target. Who knew about his plans to speak publicly? My office, the federal prosecutor's office, the marshal's service, maybe 24 people total. Then one of those 24 people is compromised. I'm aware. I've already initiated internal investigation. That'll take weeks. We don't have weeks. What do you suggest? Sophia made her decision. I'm sending you a file, financial records, communications metadata, names. You're going to want to sit down before you open it. What kind of names? The kind that end careers, and possibly governments. She forwarded Sphinx's data package, waited. 10 seconds later, Wright's voice came back on the line, quieter now, shaken. This is, where did you get this? Sources, can you verify it? If it's authentic, and that's a massive if, this is grounds for congressional investigation. Senate hearings, criminal prosecution at the highest levels. Can you protect it? Keep it secure until we're ready to move? I can try. But Sophia, if Briggs knows you have this information, he will soon enough. That's the point. Flush him out. Make him react. You're using yourself as bait. Someone has to. Garrett pulled into the hospital parking structure. Emergency entrance. Ambulances clustered near the trauma bay doors. I have to go, Sophia said. Keep that data secure. And Wright, trust no one. Not your office, not the marshals, no one. She hung up before he could respond. Garrett parked in a spot with clear sight lines to 3 exits. Professional paranoia. You really think Briggs is going to come after you personally? I think he's going to send someone. Question is when. My money's on the next 6 hours. Strike while the target's visible, before you can disappear again. Then we'd better be ready. They entered through the emergency entrance, bypassing the media circus gathering near the main lobby. Inside, the hospital was controlled chaos. Trauma teams mobilizing, security locking down access points, administrators screaming at anyone who'd listen. Sophia found the charge nurse at the central station. Marcus Vance, gunshot victim. Where? The nurse looked up, recognized her face from the news. You're the one who... Where is he? OR3. Surgical teams working on him now. Bullet hit liver and right lung. He's critical. Prognosis? Too early to say, but he's alive. That counts for something. Sophia nodded, turned to Garrett. Get your team in position, all entry points. I want eyes on anyone who doesn't belong. What about you? I'm going to OR3. Make sure nobody gets close who isn't supposed to. You can't go into an operating room. Watch me. She walked toward the surgical wing, flashing credentials that technically gave her access, but would raise questions if anyone looked too closely. Nobody looked. They were too busy managing the crisis. Outside OR3, she found a viewing gallery, a small room with windows overlooking the surgical theater below. Medical students usually sat here during teaching surgeries. Today it was empty. Sophia sat down, watched. Below, the surgical team worked with practiced efficiency. Vance lay open on the table, his chest cavity exposed, bleeding controlled but not stopped. The lead surgeon, a woman in her 50s with steady hands, called out instructions in the calm, measured tone of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Suction, more suction. I need better visualization on the hepatic artery. BP's dropping 90/60. Increase fluids. Get another unit of O negative ready. Sophia had seen enough combat surgery to understand what she was watching. Damage control, stopping the immediate bleeding, stabilizing the patient, buying time for more definitive repair later. If Vance survived the next hour, he'd probably survive the next 24. If. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You should have stayed hidden. Now you've made yourself a problem. Problems get solved. She showed it to Garrett when he entered the viewing gallery 30 seconds later. Threat assessment? He asked. Direct. Immediate. From someone with access to my current phone number, which I've changed twice since last night. Inside leak? Or very sophisticated intercept? Either way, they know where I am. Then we need to move you. No, we need to let them try. Garrett stared at her. That's insane. That's tactical. Right now they're operating in the shadows. Anonymous contractors, cutouts, deniability. We need to force them into the light. Make them commit resources publicly. Create evidence that can't be explained away. By letting them try to kill you. By being ready when they do. Before Garrett could argue further, her phone rang. Sphinx. You stirred up a hornet's nest, the analyst said without preamble. 20 minutes after I sent you those files, my security systems logged intrusion attempts from 4 different IP addresses. Military-grade intrusion tools. Someone knows I accessed that data, and they're trying to find out what I took. Can they trace it to you? Not easily, but they're motivated. I give it 12 hours before they bypass my security. Maybe less. Then we go public, release everything. That's suicide. You'll be painting targets on everyone involved. We're already targets. At least this way we control the narrative. Sphinx was quiet for a moment. There's more. I kept digging after I sent you the Briggs data. Found something else. A network within the network. Communications that don't match standard military protocols. Encrypted channels using civilian infrastructure. What kind of communications? Operational orders. Target lists. Payment authorizations. It's a private military network running parallel to official command structure. And Sophia, your name is on one of those target lists, as of 2 hours ago. The confirmation settled over her like cold water. How many names on the list? 7. You, Vance, Wright, and 4 others I don't recognize. Probably witnesses or investigators. Send me everything, all of it. Wright needs to see this. Already done. But Sophia, this is bigger than Briggs. The operational tempo, the resources being deployed, this is institutional. Someone at the very top is coordinating this. Who's above Briggs? In military chain of command? The Secretary of Defense and the President. Take your pick. Sophia closed her eyes. If this went that high, traditional justice was impossible. You couldn't prosecute the people who controlled the justice system. What are you thinking? Garrett asked after she ended the call. I'm thinking we might need to rethink our approach. Meaning? Meaning maybe exposure isn't enough. Maybe we need leverage. Before she could explain, alarms started blaring in the surgical theater below. Vance's vitals were crashing. VFib! He's in VFib! Charging paddles, clear. The defibrillator discharged. Vance's body arced on the table. No pulse. Charging again. Clear. Another shock. Another flat line. Push EP. Continue compressions. Sophia watched the surgical team work, fighting to restart a heart that had stopped under the stress of traumatic injury and emergency surgery. Watched them push drugs, shock the heart repeatedly, massage the organ manually through the open chest cavity. Watched them lose. Time of death, 1447. The words hung in the air like a death sentence for everyone involved. Marcus Vance, the whistleblower, the witness, the man whose testimony was supposed to bring down a corrupt network, was dead. And with him died any hope of conventional justice. Sophia stood slowly, felt Garrett's hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry. She didn't respond. Couldn't. Because the cold calculus running through her mind was already moving past grief to operational necessity. Vance was dead. The investigation would collapse without his testimony. Castellano and Briggs and whoever else was involved would walk away clean. 3 hospital staff had died for nothing. The contractors who'd attacked Mercy Point would be written off as rogue elements. The conspiracy would continue, unless someone did something about it. Her phone rang. Right. I heard, he said. Vance is gone. Yes. The case is over. Without his testimony, we can't proceed. The evidence is circumstantial at best. Any halfway competent defense attorney will tear it apart. So that's it? We just let them win? We don't have a choice. The investigation is being shut down. Orders from the top. I've been reassigned. My team is being dispersed. By tomorrow morning, this whole thing will be buried under national security classifications and prosecutorial discretion. Who gave the order? Wright hesitated. Secretary of Defense, through official channels, legal, authorized, unappealable. The Secretary of Defense works for the president. I'm aware. So this goes all the way up. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Does it matter? The result is the same. Sophia looked down at the surgical theater where Vance's body lay cooling on the table. What happens to me? You disappear. New identity. New life. Somewhere far from here. We'll handle the media, explain your absence, let the story fade naturally. And if I refuse, then you'll be alone. No support, no protection, no backup. And the people who killed Vance will eventually kill you too. Sounds like I don't have much to lose. Sophia, she hung up. Garrett was watching her carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking conventional approach is over. Time for unconventional. Explain. We can't prosecute them through official channels. Fine, we prosecute them through public exposure. Release everything. The financial records, the communications, the target lists. Put it all online where it can't be buried. That's illegal. That's treason, probably. Only if you get caught. Even if you don't get caught, even if the information goes public, what makes you think anyone will care? Vance just died on live television, and the investigation is being shut down anyway. People in power protect their own. Not always. Not when the evidence is overwhelming. Not when it's impossible to ignore. You're gambling on public outrage. That's a weak foundation. It's all I have left. Sophia pulled out her phone, started typing a message to Sphinx. But before she could send it, the lights in the viewing gallery went out. Emergency backup power kicked in immediately. Dim red lights, enough to see, but not enough to work by. Standard protocol during power failures. Except the power hadn't failed. Down in the surgical theater, the lights were still on. The equipment still running. Someone had cut power to this specific section, this specific gallery. Sophia drew the weapon she'd taken from the safe house that morning, a compact Sig Sauer that Wright's team had provided. Garrett already had his rifle up, scanning angles. How many exits? She whispered. 2. Main door behind us. Emergency stairs to the left. They'll cover both. Probably. The door handle turned slowly. Professional entry technique. Quiet. Controlled. Then the door exploded inward, and 2 men in tactical gear came through fast and hard, weapons raised. Sophia fired twice. Both headshots. Both kills. The men dropped. But more were coming through the emergency exit. 3, 4, 5. Professional operators moving in coordinated assault formation. Garrett engaged the nearest target, dropped him with a 3-round burst. Sophia took down another, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. We need to move, Garrett shouted over the gunfire. Where? Out! Any direction! Now! They fell back through the only path available, through the viewing gallery's observation window. Sophia grabbed a chair, smashed through the glass, and dropped 12 feet into the surgical theater below. She landed hard, rolled, came up firing, dropped 2 more operators who'd rappelled down behind them. Garrett landed beside her, weapon up, covering their 6. The surgical team was scrambling for cover, screaming, trying to process the sudden violence erupting in their sterile workspace. Get out! Sophia yelled at them. Everyone out! Now! They didn't need to be told twice. The team evacuated through the theater's main doors, leaving Sophia and Garrett alone with Vance's body and half a dozen dead contractors. Situation? Garrett asked, changing magazines. Compromised, surrounded, no good exits. Recommendations? Make a lot of noise. Get attention. Force them to retreat before police arrive. Sophia grabbed the fire alarm on the wall, pulled it hard. Sirens erupted throughout the hospital. Sprinkler systems activated, drenching everything. Chaos multiplied exponentially. In that chaos, Sophia and Garrett moved. They exited through the surgical theater's service entrance, found themselves in a narrow corridor used for moving supplies and biohazard waste. Ran toward the delivery dock entrance, but the contractors were already there, cutting off their escape. Back! Garrett pulled her behind a supply cart as bullets tore through the corridor. They returned fire. Precision shots, controlled bursts, making every round count because ammunition was finite and enemies were numerous. Sophia's weapon locked back empty. She dropped the magazine, loaded her last one. 15 rounds left. Not enough. Garrett! He tossed her a spare magazine from his vest. Last one! Make it count! They moved again, this time through a door marked biomedical waste, authorized personnel only. Found themselves in a sterilization facility, large autoclaves, industrial incinerators, pressurized chambers for destroying contaminated materials. Sophia's tactical mind was already working, calculating, planning. "Can you seal this door?" she asked. "For maybe 30 seconds. Why?" "Do it. Then get to the far exit. I'll meet you there." "What are you planning?" "Something stupid. Move." Garrett jammed the door, then sprinted for the opposite exit. Sophia ran to the largest autoclave, a pressurized steam chamber used for sterilizing surgical equipment, checked the pressure gauge. Still operational, still hot. She grabbed a surgical tray, jammed it into the door seal. The autoclave couldn't close properly now, couldn't maintain pressure. Steam began venting from the gaps. Then she found the emergency pressure release, a red valve marked emergency use only. Spun it open. Superheated steam exploded into the room with the force of a bomb. Temperature spiked to 270 degrees instantly. Visibility dropped to 0. The door Garrett had jammed exploded inward. Contractors pushed through, moving fast, right into the steam cloud. Screaming started immediately. The kind of screaming that came from flesh cooking, from lungs burning, from men dying in agony. Sophia was already gone, moving through the scalding mist toward the far exit where Garrett was waiting. They burst out into the loading dock area. 2 of Garrett's team members were there, weapons up, covering their escape. "Vehicle, now!" one of them shouted. They ran for the SUV. Bullets chased them, sparking off concrete and metal. Garrett returned fire, providing cover while Sophia dove into the back seat. The SUV peeled out before the door was fully closed. Behind them, the hospital was complete chaos. Fire alarms, sprinklers, evacuations, police sirens approaching. And somewhere in that chaos, at least a dozen contractors lay dead or dying. "Status?" Garrett asked from the driver's seat. "Alive," Sophia said. "Barely." "That was too close." "They'll try again." "I know." Sophia's phone was ringing. She checked the caller ID. Unknown number. She answered anyway. "What?" "You're making this very difficult." The voice was cultured, educated, vaguely familiar. 3 teams sent, 3 teams eliminated. You're resourceful, I'll grant you that. Who is this? Someone who's trying to help you. Someone who wants to offer you a way out of this situation before it gets even more unpleasant. Briggs? A pause, then, Admiral Briggs is a useful tool, nothing more. I'm the person who decides how that tool gets used. Secretary Morrison? Another pause, longer this time. You're smarter than your file suggests. Secretary of Defense Andrew Morrison, 3rd in line to the presidency, one of the most powerful men in the country, and apparently the apex of the conspiracy. "What do you want?" Sophia asked. "I want you to stop. Walk away. Take the new identity, the new life, disappear. In exchange, I'll make this end. No more contractors, no more attempts on your life. Just peace." "And what about justice? What about the people who died?" "Justice is a luxury we can't afford right now. There are larger issues at stake. National security concerns that go far beyond one whistleblower and his misguided attempt at transparency. Vance is dead. The investigation is closed. What more do you want?" "I want the data you stole. The financial records, the communications logs, all of it. Returned, deleted, erased. And if I refuse, then everyone you care about dies, starting with Lieutenant Garrett next to you, then his team, then Special Counsel Wright, then your family. Yes, we know about them. Your sister in Michigan, her 2 children. They're all leveraged now." Sophia felt ice in her veins. "You wouldn't. I've authorized drone strikes on American citizens before. I've sanctioned black site interrogations. I've signed kill orders for journalists who got too close to classified operations. Killing a few more people to protect national security is well within my operational parameters. This isn't national security, this is covering up corruption. Call it what you want. The result is the same. You have 12 hours to return the data. After that, people start dying. Choose wisely." The line went dead. Sophia sat in silence for a long moment. Then she looked at Garrett. He threatened your team, and Wright, and my family. I heard. What do you want to do? I want to burn his entire operation to the ground. How? Sophia pulled out her phone, started typing a message to Sphinx. We release everything, right now. Every file, every document, every piece of evidence. Put it on every platform, every server, every news outlet simultaneously. Make it impossible to contain. That's a death sentence for all of us. He's going to kill us anyway. At least this way we take him down with us. You're sure? Sophia thought about Richards and Jackson and the young corpsman. Thought about Vance bleeding out on the courthouse steps. Thought about all those people who died because powerful men decided their secrets were more important than human lives. I'm sure. She hit send. The message went out to Sphinx with 3 words. Release everything. Now. 30 seconds later, her phone buzzed with confirmation. Files uploading. Multiple servers. Simultaneous release. ETA to full publication, 90 minutes. 90 minutes until the largest classified intelligence leak in American history went live. 90 minutes until Sophia became the most wanted person in the country. 90 minutes until everything changed. Where are we going? Garrett asked. Safe house, not Wright's. He's compromised, somewhere off-grid. I know a place. Old SEAL training facility, abandoned since budget cuts. Remote, defensible. How remote? 2 hours outside Portland. Mountains, no cell coverage, no road access except one logging trail. Perfect. Get us there. The SUV turned onto the highway, heading east toward the mountains. Behind them, Portland was a chaos of sirens and smoke. Ahead, nothing but trees and darkness. Sophia checked her weapon. Reloaded. Prepared for what was coming. Because Morrison would send everything he had. Every asset, every contractor, every operator at his disposal. The next 12 hours would be a war of attrition, and she was determined to survive it. Her phone buzzed one final time. Text from a number she recognized. Right. I saw what you did, the data release. You just signed your own death warrant. She typed back. Better than dying for nothing. His response came immediately. I'm with you. Whatever you need, I'm in. Then another message. From Sphinx. Release initiated. No turning back now. Good luck, Sierra Niner. Sophia pocketed the phone and watched the city disappear behind them. In 90 minutes, the world would know everything. In 90 minutes, the conspiracy would be exposed. In 90 minutes, justice would finally have a chance, if they survived that long. And somewhere in a secure office in Washington, D.C., Secretary Morrison received the notification that his entire operation had just been uploaded to 17 different servers across 4 continents. He smiled. Because Sophia had just made the mistake he'd been waiting for. She'd gone public, made herself visible. Given him a target, he could hit with the full force of the United States military. And unlike contractors and mercenaries, the military didn't fail. He picked up his phone, made one call. This is Morrison. Authorization code Tango 77 Alpha. I need a tactical strike team, full combat load. Target is a domestic terrorist in possession of classified national security information. Location will be transmitted shortly. Rules of engagement: neutralize all hostiles. No prisoners. No survivors. Confirmed, Mr. Secretary. Strike team deploying in 15 minutes. Morrison hung up and looked out his window at the Washington skyline. By midnight, this would all be over. The nurse, the SEAL, the analyst, all of them dead. The data scrubbed from servers before anyone important could access it. The narrative rewritten. Rogue intelligence officer steals classified data, threatens national security, neutralized by federal response. Clean, simple, final. He'd handled bigger problems than this. And in the mountains outside Portland, as the sun began to set, Sophia Blake prepared to face the full might of the most powerful military in human history, with nothing but training, determination, and the absolute certainty that some things were worth dying for. The abandoned SEAL training facility looked exactly like what it was, a forgotten piece of military infrastructure slowly being reclaimed by the forest, concrete bunkers half buried in moss, obstacle courses rusted to the point of collapse, a main building with most of its windows shattered and graffiti covering the walls. Perfect defensible position for people who knew how to use terrain. Garrett's team moved through the compound with practiced efficiency, clearing rooms, establishing firing positions, setting up motion sensors along the single-access road. Sophia watched them work and felt the weight of what she'd done settling over her like a physical thing. In 63 minutes, the data would go live. Every corrupt transaction, every illegal order, every piece of evidence that connected Morrison and Briggs and Castellano to a network of criminal activity that spanned 2 decades. And Morrison was sending a kill team to stop it. "Perimeter secure," Garrett reported, joining her in what used to be the facility's command center. "Motion sensors active. We'll have warning if anything larger than a deer approaches." "How much warning?" 3 minutes. Maybe 4 if they're being cautious. "Not enough time to evacuate." "No, but enough time to prepare." Sophia nodded. She'd known this was coming the moment she'd authorized the data release. Known that Morrison wouldn't negotiate, wouldn't wait, wouldn't give them a chance to disappear. He'd send everything he had, and they'd have to survive it long enough for the information to spread beyond his ability to contain. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sphinx. Data propagation at 67%. Multiple government agencies attempting to block servers. They're failing. Too many mirrors, too much redundancy. This is happening. Another text, seconds later. Major news outlets picking it up. CNN just broke the story. Fox following. International feeds going live. There's no stopping this now. Sophia allowed herself a small, grim smile. Morrison had 60 minutes to kill her before the court of public opinion made that strategically useless. But 60 minutes was a long time when professionals were trying to end your life. "How many in your team total?" she asked Garrett. 4 plus me. All combat experienced. Good shooters." "Against what Morrison's sending?" "Depends what he sends. If it's contractors, we've got a chance. If it's actual military, special operations command assets, then we're outgunned and we know it." "Best case scenario?" "They try to take us quietly, small team, suppressed weapons. Make it look like we died in a training accident or something equally deniable." "Worst case?" "They level the entire facility with a drone strike and claim we were terrorists." Sophia considered this. "He won't use drones. Too much digital fingerprint. Too many people in the chain of command who'd have to sign off. Morrison's smart. He'll use operators who can be disavowed if things go wrong. So we're looking at maybe 8 to 12 hostiles, Tier 1 operators, best equipment, total tactical superiority. Except they don't know the terrain, and we do." Garrett almost smiled. "You're an optimist." "I'm a realist who refuses to die today." One of Garrett's team members, a compact, intense woman named Rodriguez, entered the command center carrying a laptop. "Perimeter cameras are active. I've also tapped into the local emergency services band. If anyone calls in our location, we'll hear it." "Good work," Garrett said. Rodriguez looked at Sophia. "Ma'am, I need to ask, what's the exit strategy here? Because right now our plan seems to be hole up and hope they don't kill us before the internet does our job." "That's exactly the plan. With respect, that's a terrible plan. It's the only plan we have. Morrison wants the data back. He wants me dead. He wants this entire situation erased. We survive long enough for the data to go fully public, and killing us becomes pointless. We become more valuable alive as witnesses than dead as martyrs. And if the data doesn't go public, if they manage to scrub the servers, then we die for nothing, but I don't think that's going to happen." Rodriguez didn't look convinced, but she nodded and returned to her station. Sophia's phone rang. "Right. You need to see this," he said without preamble. "Turn on the news. Any channel." Sophia found an old television in the corner of the command center, surprisingly still functional, turned it on. Every channel showed the same thing, breaking news coverage of what reporters were calling the largest intelligence leak in American history. A CNN anchor spoke urgently into the camera. "Documents appear to show systematic corruption at the highest levels of military and civilian leadership, including what sources are describing as a shadow network operating outside official oversight. Among the names mentioned are Senator Richard Castellano, Admiral Theodore Briggs, and, in what may be the most explosive revelation, Secretary of Defense Andrew Morrison himself." The screen switched to footage of protesters gathering outside the Pentagon. then to congressional leaders demanding immediate investigations, then to international reactions, allies expressing concern, adversaries calling for Morrison's resignation. "It's working," Wright said on the phone. "Public pressure is building faster than anyone anticipated. Morrison can't shut this down anymore." "Can he survive it?" "Politically, no. Legally? That's harder to say. He's already lawyering up, preparing statements, claiming the documents are fabricated, taken out of context, Russian disinformation, whatever sticks." "Will it stick?" "Not with this much evidence, but he'll try to drag it out, delay, obfuscate, hope people lose interest." Sophia watched the coverage shift to analysis of the financial transactions. Reporters connecting dots, following money trails, exposing a network that had operated in darkness for years. "He's going to come for me," she said quietly, "before this gets worse. He needs me dead to control the narrative." "I know. That's why I'm sending reinforcements." "What kind of reinforcements?" "The kind that don't officially exist, a team I've worked with before. Off-book assets, they're already en route to your location." "How did you know where I am?" Wright hesitated. "Garrett told me." Sophia looked at Garrett, who was studiously avoiding her gaze. "You shouldn't have done that," she said to both of them. "You were planning to face Morrison's kill team with 5 people, Wright replied. "That's suicide. Now you'll have 10. Better odds. Or 10 people who die instead of 5. These operators know the risks. They're volunteering. And frankly, after what happened to Vance, after everything Morrison's done, a lot of people in the special operations community want to see him fall." The motion sensors chimed. Rodriguez's head snapped up. "Contact, single vehicle on the access road. Moving slow. No attempt at stealth." Garrett moved to the window, binoculars up. "It's a civilian sedan, black. Government plates." "Your reinforcements?" Sophia asked Wright. "Shouldn't be here for another 30 minutes. "Then who?" The sedan stopped 50 meters from the main building. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out, hands clearly visible and empty. "Senator Richard Castellano." Sophia felt the world tilt slightly. "What the hell is he doing here?" "Only one way to find out," Garrett said, weapon ready. They watched as Castellano walked toward the building, moving carefully, obviously aware he was in someone's sights. He stopped at the entrance, looked up at the security camera Rodriguez had installed. "I'm alone," he called out. "Unarmed. I need to talk to Sophia Blake." Rodriguez looked at Sophia. "Orders?" "Let him approach. But if he makes any sudden moves, put him down." They met Castellano in what used to be the facility's mess hall. He looked different from the polished senator on television. Older, tired, wearing casual clothes instead of his usual tailored suits. But his eyes were sharp, calculating. "You've caused quite the situation," he said, sitting down without being invited. "You tried to have me killed, multiple times." "Not me. Morrison. I'm just a convenient scapegoat." "The financial records say otherwise." "The financial records show money moving through accounts I had access to. Not that I authorized the transfers. There's a difference." Sophia sat across from him. "Why are you here, Senator?" "Because Morrison's going to kill you in approximately..." He checked his watch. 23 minutes. "And if he kills you, there's a chance he survives this scandal. Spins it as rogue operators acting without authorization. Makes you and Vance into the villains who stole classified data for foreign governments." "We didn't steal anything for foreign governments." "I know, but dead people can't defend themselves. And Morrison's very good at crafting narratives." Garrett stood behind Castellano, weapon not quite aimed but definitely ready. "You still haven't explained why you're here." "I'm here to offer you a deal. Testimony in exchange for protection. I'll tell federal prosecutors everything. Where the bodies are buried, who gave which orders, how the network operated. All of it." "Why would you do that?" Sophia asked. "Because Morrison just threw me under the bus on national television, called me the architect of the entire conspiracy, claimed he was investigating me when you released the data. He's making me the primary target to save himself." "And you're upset about that?" "I'm realistic about it. If I'm going down, I'm taking everyone with me, including Morrison. Especially Morrison." Sophia studied his face. "You're telling me you want to flip, become a witness against the man you've been working with for years." "I'm telling you I want to survive. And the only way I survive is if Morrison falls harder than I do. Your data release started that process. My testimony finishes it. How do I know you're not just trying to get close enough to kill me yourself? Castellano pulled out his phone, placed it on the table between them. I recorded Morrison, our last conversation, 20 minutes ago. He's on tape ordering a military strike team to eliminate all witnesses at this location. That's conspiracy to commit murder, using military assets for domestic assassination. That's treason. Sophia picked up the phone, played the recording. Morrison's voice was unmistakable. Don't care about the political fallout. I want them dead. All of them. The nurse, the SEAL team, anyone protecting them. Use whatever force is necessary. Make it look like they resisted arrest. And Castellano, if he's there, kill him too. He's a liability now. The recording continued for another 2 minutes. Detailed operational planning, explicit kill orders, everything needed to prosecute Morrison under military and civilian law. Sophia looked up at Castellano. You knew he was going to betray you. I suspected. Morrison doesn't tolerate loose ends. I became a loose end the moment your data went public. So you're here for self-preservation. I'm here because the enemy of my enemy is temporarily useful. You want Morrison brought down. I want Morrison brought down. Let's work together. Before Sophia could respond, the motion sensors chimed again. Multiple contacts this time. Rodriguez's voice came through the radio. We have incoming, 4 vehicles, military transport, heavy weapons visible. ETA 90 seconds. Castellano stood quickly. That's them. The strike team. We need to leave. Now. There's only one road in or out, Garrett said. They'll have blocked it by now. Then we go through the forest. On foot. I have a helicopter waiting 5 kilometers north. Why should we trust you? Sophia demanded. Because in 60 seconds, Morrison's kill team is going to breach this facility and murder everyone inside. You can trust me or you can die here. Choose quickly. The sound of helicopter rotors echoed in the distance. Not Castellano's extraction bird. This was incoming military air support. Sophia made her decision. Everyone out! North exit! Move! Garrett's team didn't hesitate. They grabbed essential gear and ran. Sophia was the last out, with Castellano beside her and Garrett covering their retreat. Behind them, she heard the main building's doors being breached. Flashbangs. Shouting. Operators moving through empty rooms. They'd evacuated just in time. The forest was thick with undergrowth and darkness. Sophia ran on pure training, navigating by starlight and instinct, trusting Garrett and his team to maintain formation. Castellano kept pace surprisingly well for a man in his 60s. Behind them, the abandoned facility lit up with gunfire as Morrison's strike team realized their targets had fled. They'll pursue, Garrett said, breathing hard. Thermal imaging, night vision. They'll track us through the forest. Let them try, Castellano replied. My helicopter has countermeasures. Once we're airborne, they can't touch us. And if we don't make it to the helicopter, then we all die and Morrison wins. Keep moving. They ran for what felt like hours, but was probably 20 minutes. Sophia's lungs burned. Her legs screamed. But she didn't slow down, because behind them, she could hear pursuit. Professional operators moving through the forest with the kind of speed that came from extensive training and superior equipment. How much farther? She called to Castellano. 2 kilometers, maybe less. A gunshot cracked through the trees. Bark exploded beside Sophia's head. Contact rear, Rodriguez shouted, returning fire. The forest erupted into chaos. Garrett's team formed a defensive line, providing covering fire while Sophia and Castellano continued forward. The tactics were sound, leapfrog retreat, always keeping someone between the enemy and the primary asset. But they were still outnumbered. Another of Garrett's team went down, wounded, not killed, but unable to continue. Rodriguez dragged him behind a fallen log, applied pressure to the wound. Go, she shouted at Sophia. We'll hold them here. I'm not leaving. That's an order, Commander. Get to that helicopter. Make this count. Sophia hesitated for half a second. Then she ran. Garrett was beside her, breathing hard, weapon ready. Behind them, the firefight intensified. She wanted to go back, wanted to help, but Rodriguez was right. The mission was bigger than any individual. The data was already public. Morrison was already exposed. But Castellano's testimony would seal the case, would ensure convictions instead of just accusations. She had to get him to safety. They broke through the tree line into a small clearing. A civilian helicopter sat there, rotors already spinning, pilot visible in the cockpit. "That's our ride!" Castellano shouted over the noise. They ran for it. Sophia climbed in first, then Garrett, then Castellano. The pilot didn't wait for confirmation, just pulled up hard and fast, climbing above the forest canopy. Below, Sophia could see Morrison's strike team emerging from the trees. Weapons raised. Firing at the departing helicopter, rounds sparked off the fuselage. The pilot jinked left, then right, taking evasive action. But they were already too high, too fast. The gunfire fell away. They'd escaped. Sophia looked back at the forest where Rodriguez and the others were still fighting. "We have to go back for them." "We can't," the pilot said. "This bird isn't armed. We go back, we die." "I gave an order to Garrett's hand on her shoulder. "They knew the mission. They volunteered. Don't make their sacrifice meaningless." Sophia closed her eyes, felt the helicopter banking north, away from the battle, away from the people who'd given everything to keep her alive. Later. She'd grieve later. "Where are we going?" she asked Castellano. "Washington, D.C. Federal Courthouse. I'm turning myself in to federal prosecutors, and I'm bringing you with me as my star witness. Morrison will have people everywhere. Federal buildings, police stations, airports. Let him. We're not hiding anymore. We're going public. Full media circus. Cameras everywhere. He can't kill us on live television." The helicopter flew through the night sky. Below, Oregon's forests gave way to farmland, then to the lights of cities. They refueled once at a private airfield, the pilot barely shutting down the engines before they were airborne again. Sophia used the flight time to coordinate with Wright via encrypted text. Castellano's testimony would be heard in emergency session. Federal prosecutors were already preparing charges. The Senate was convening investigations. And Morrison was preparing his defense. At 3:17 a.m., they landed on the helipad of the J. Edgar Hoover building in Washington, D.C. Federal agents were waiting, weapons drawn, expressions grim. Not hostile, just careful. Castellano stepped out first, hands visible. "Senator Richard Castellano, I'm here to surrender to federal custody and provide testimony regarding criminal conspiracy at the highest levels of government." The lead agent, a woman Sophia recognized from news coverage as the Deputy Attorney General, stepped forward. "Senator, we've been expecting you. This way, please." They were escorted inside under heavy guard, not to interrogation rooms, but to a secure conference room where a dozen federal prosecutors waited with recording equipment and stenographers. Castellano sat down, looked at Sophia. "You should stay for this. You'll want to hear what I have to say." The senior prosecutor, a man named Davidson with 30 years of experience and a reputation for taking down corrupt officials, activated the recording equipment. "For the record, this is a voluntary statement from Senator Richard Castellano, given on," he checked the date, "October 17th, 2026, at 03:24 hours. Senator, you've waived your right to counsel. Is that correct?" "It is." "Please state your involvement in the conspiracy known as Operation Nightfall." Castellano took a breath, then began talking. For the next 4 hours, he detailed everything. The origin of the network 20 years ago. The initial justification, protecting classified programs from congressional oversight. The gradual corruption as small ethical compromises led to larger ones. The contractors hired, the witnesses silenced, the money laundered through dozens of shell companies. And Morrison's role at the center of it all. "Andrew Morrison isn't just a participant," Castellano said. "He's the architect. Every major decision for the past decade flowed through him. Vance threatened to expose the financial irregularities. Morrison ordered him silenced. The hospital attack, Morrison's authorization, the contractors sent after Sophia Blake, Morrison's funding, all of it." "Do you have evidence of this?" Davidson asked. "I have recordings, financial records, emails, enough to prove Morrison personally authorized criminal activity on at least 37 separate occasions over the past 5 years." Davidson leaned forward. "Senator, why are you telling us this now?" "Because Morrison tried to have me killed, and because I'm tired of living in the shadow of a man who believes he's above the law." The testimony continued. Names, dates, specific operations. Castellano held nothing back. By the time he finished, the sun was rising over Washington, D.C., and the prosecutors had enough evidence to arrest half the Pentagon. Davidson stood. "Senator, you'll remain in federal custody pending further investigation, but I want you to know, this testimony is going to change everything." "I'm counting on it." Guards escorted Castellano to a secure holding facility. Sophia remained in the conference room with Davidson and Wright, who'd arrived during the testimony. "This is enough," Wright said quietly. "Morrison's finished." "We still need to arrest him," Davidson replied. "And that's going to be complicated. He's the Secretary of Defense. He has security details, access to military assets, the ability to disappear into classified programs if he feels threatened." "Then we move fast," Sophia said, "before he realizes how much Castellano gave you." "We're already moving. Arrest warrant is being prepared now. We'll execute it within the hour." Sophia's phone buzzed. News alert. Breaking. Secretary of Defense Andrew Morrison to hold press conference at 8 a.m. regarding false allegations and criminal conspiracy to undermine national security. "He's going to try to get ahead of this," she said, showing them the alert. Wright cursed. "If he goes public first, if he frames the narrative before we can arrest him, then we crash his press conference," Sophia said. "Show up with arrest warrant in hand. Make it impossible for him to spin this." Davidson considered this. "That's risky and highly irregular." "So is everything that's happened in the past 48 hours, but it's worked so far." A long pause. Then Davidson nodded. "I'll authorize it. But you're coming with me. If we're going to do this, we do it right. Federal prosecutors, federal agents, full legal authority." "And me?" Sophia asked. "You're the witness who survived 3 assassination attempts and exposed the conspiracy. You absolutely should be there." At 7:53 a.m., Morrison's press conference was set to begin in the Pentagon briefing room. Media from around the world had gathered, cameras ready, reporters prepared to broadcast whatever the Secretary of Defense had to say about the explosive allegations. Morrison walked to the podium at exactly 8 a.m., composed, confident, every inch the powerful official who'd weathered dozens of political storms. "Good morning. I'm here to address the malicious and false allegations that have been circulated regarding my involvement in criminal activity. These allegations are based on fabricated documents, taken out of context, and designed to undermine confidence in our national security apparatus." He paused for effect. The doors at the back of the briefing room opened. Davidson walked in, flanked by 6 federal agents. Behind them, Sophia and Wright. Morrison's expression didn't change, but his eyes went cold. "Secretary Morrison," Davidson said, voice carrying across the room, "I have a warrant for your arrest on charges of conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and treason. You need to come with us. Now." The room erupted. Reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, security personnel frozen in uncertainty. Morrison stood at the podium for a long moment. Then he smiled. "You're making a mistake, Davidson. A career-ending mistake. The only mistake was thinking you were untouchable." Federal agents moved forward. Morrison raised his hand slowly, making no sudden movements. "I'll fight this. Every charge, every allegation, and when I'm acquitted, and I will be acquitted, everyone involved in this witch hunt will answer for it." "That's your right," Davidson said. "But right now, you're under arrest." They cuffed him, led him out of the briefing room in front of every camera in the world, and Sophia watched the most powerful military official in the country being taken into custody, knowing that justice, real justice, was finally being served. Outside the Pentagon, the media circus was overwhelming. Reporters swarmed, demanding statements, asking questions, trying to understand what they'd just witnessed. Wright guided Sophia through the crowd to a waiting vehicle. "We need to get you somewhere safe. This isn't over yet." "What do you mean?" "Morrison's network is bigger than just him. There are still people loyal to him, people who will want revenge." "Let them come." Wright looked at her, really looked at her. "You've done enough. You've exposed the conspiracy, saved Vance's testimony through Castellano, brought down one of the most corrupt officials in American history. You can rest now." "Can I?" Before he could answer, Sophia's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her press accept. "Blake," Commander Blake, this is Admiral Theodore Briggs. Sophia's blood went cold. I have nothing to say to you. Then just listen. Morrison's arrest changes nothing. The network is still operational, still funded, still capable of reaching anywhere in the world. You're going down with him. Maybe. Eventually. But not today. And in the meantime, I want you to know something. You made this personal. You exposed us, humiliated us, cost us Morrison. That has consequences. Is this a threat? It's a promise. You're not safe. You'll never be safe. Every day for the rest of your life, you'll wonder if that car behind you is surveillance, if that stranger on the street is an operator, if today is the day we finally settle accounts. Then I'll spend every day making sure more of you end up in prison. Briggs laughed. I admire your conviction, but conviction doesn't stop bullets, remember that. The line went dead. Sophia looked at Wright. Briggs just threatened me. We'll add it to the charges. Put him in custody too. He's right, though. Morrison might be in custody, but the network is still out there, still operational. Then we keep fighting, keep exposing them, keep bringing them down one by one until there's nothing left. Sophia nodded. That was the work. The endless, grinding work of fighting corruption that regenerated faster than you could cut it away. But it was necessary work, and she was good at it. Her phone buzzed again. Text from Sphinx. Rodriguez and 2 others made it out, wounded but alive. Evac to friendly hospital. You're welcome. Sophia felt relief wash over her. Not all of them had died. Not all sacrifices were permanent. Another text. Also, Morrison's financial network is collapsing. Assets frozen. Shell companies exposed. You cut the head off the snake. She texted back. There's always another snake. Sphinx response? Then you keep cutting heads. It's what you do best. Wright's vehicle pulled up to a safe house. Different from the last one. More secure, with proper federal protection instead of improvised security. You'll stay here until we're sure the threat has passed, Wright said. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe months. We're moving against the entire network now. Arresting operators, freezing accounts, dismantling infrastructure. But it's a big network. Sophia looked out the window at Washington, D.C., the monuments, the government buildings, the centers of power that had been corrupted and were now being slowly cleansed. I want to testify, she said, when Morrison goes to trial, when Briggs goes to trial. I want to be there. I want to look them in the eye and tell the world what they did. That'll put an even bigger target on your back. Good. Let them come. I'm done hiding. Wright smiled slightly. The quiet nurse who never spoke up. Who would have thought she'd end up here? Everyone underestimated her. That was their first mistake. What was their second? Thinking she'd stay quiet forever. Sophia walked into the safe house, ready to begin the next phase. The testimonies, the trials, the long grinding work of ensuring that powerful men faced consequences for their actions. But as she entered, she noticed something on the table. An envelope. Unmarked. Sealed. Wright saw it too. That wasn't here when we secured the location. They approached carefully. Wright opened it while Sophia stood ready. Inside was a single photograph. Sophia recognized the location immediately, her sister's house in Michigan. The photo had been taken from across the street, through a telephoto lens, and written across the bottom in neat handwriting. The network remembers. Wright's face went white. We need to get your family into protective custody, now. Sophia stared at the photograph, at her sister's house, at the message. Then she smiled, because the network had just made a critical error. They'd shown their hand, revealed they were still watching, still planning, which meant they weren't as damaged as Morrison's arrest had suggested, which meant there was still work to do. And Sophia Blake, the quiet nurse who'd been underestimated her entire career, was just getting started. Sophia studied the photograph for exactly 3 seconds before making her decision. No protective custody, she said. Wright stared at her. Your family is in immediate danger. We need to. My family is bait, and I'm going to use them exactly the way the network intends, except I'm controlling the trap, not them. That's insane. That's tactical. They want me emotional, desperate, making mistakes. Instead, I'm going to give them exactly what they expect and destroy them when they move. Wright opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He'd seen her work. knew better than to underestimate her operational planning. What do you need? Surveillance team on my sister's house. Invisible, professional, nobody local. Bring in operators from out of state who won't be recognized. I want 24-hour coverage with overlapping shifts and real-time communication. That's a significant resource commitment. The network just showed us they're still operational, still coordinated, still willing to threaten civilians to get to me. That means Morrison wasn't the head of the snake. He was just the most visible part. You think Briggs is running things now? I think someone is, and they just made their first mistake since Morrison's arrest. They revealed they're watching my family, which means they have assets in Michigan, which means we can track them back to their command structure. Wright was already on his phone, making calls. Within 10 minutes, he'd arranged the surveillance detail. Federal agents would be on the ground in Michigan within 3 hours. But Sophia wasn't waiting 3 hours. She called her sister directly. The phone rang 4 times before Amanda Blake answered, voice thick with sleep. Sophia, it's 5 in the morning here. What's wrong? You need to listen very carefully. Don't react. Don't look outside. Just listen. Amanda's voice sharpened immediately. Are we in danger? Potentially. There are people watching your house. Federal agents will arrive in a few hours to provide protection, but until then, I need you to act completely normal. Morning routine, kids to school, nothing unusual. Who's watching us? People connected to a case I'm involved in. They're trying to pressure me. By threatening my children? Sophia heard the steel in her sister's voice. Amanda had always been the softer one, the civilian, the normal life Sophia had never managed. But underneath that normalcy was the same Blake family core. You didn't threaten their family and walk away intact. The agents will keep you safe, I promise. What are you going to do? What I do best. Make the people threatening you regret it. After ending the call, Sophia turned to Wright. I need access to Morrison's interrogation. I want to hear what he's telling prosecutors. That's restricted. Only authorized personnel, then authorize me. Morrison knows who's running the network now. He knows where Briggs is. He knows everything we need to shut this down permanently. Wright made another call. 20 minutes later, Sophia was sitting in an observation room watching Morrison being interrogated through one-way glass. He looked different in federal custody. No expensive suit, no flags behind him. Just an orange jumpsuit and the kind of exhaustion that came from realizing your entire world had collapsed. The interrogator, a federal prosecutor named Matthews, who specialized in corruption cases, was methodical. Secretary Morrison, we've established your involvement in Operation Nightfall. We have financial records, communications logs, testimony from Senator Castellano. What we need now is the current operational structure. Who's running the network since your arrest? Morrison smiled. You think arresting me changes anything? You think the network stops because one person goes down? I think you're facing life in prison. Maybe cooperation reduces that sentence. There is no cooperation that saves me. The moment I was arrested, I became expendable. The network has already moved on. New leadership, new operational security, new targets. Who? You'll find out eventually, when they're ready for you to know. Matthews leaned forward. Is it Briggs? Morrison's smile widened. Briggs is a useful military asset, but he's not leadership material. Never was. Then who? Someone you've never heard of. Someone who's been operating in the shadows for 30 years while people like me drew attention. That's how it works. Visible targets and invisible operators. Give me a name. Why? So you can arrest them and the next person steps up? This isn't a hierarchy you can dismantle from the top. It's a network. Cut one connection, 3 more form. You'll spend the rest of your career chasing ghosts. Sophia had heard enough. She stood and walked out of the observation room. Wright followed. He's not going to cooperate. He already did. He told us Briggs isn't in charge. That narrows our target list significantly. How many people could be running a network this sophisticated? In the defense and intelligence community? Dozens, but only a handful have been operational for 30 years. We cross-reference long-term contractors, senior intelligence officials who've moved between agencies, anyone with consistent access to classified programs across multiple administrations. That's still a lot of names. Then we narrow it further. Who benefits from Morrison's arrest? Who gains power when he falls? Wright's eyes widened. You think someone inside the investigation is compromised? I think someone inside the investigation orchestrated Morrison's exposure, used us to remove a rival. That's how these networks survive. They eat their own when necessary and grow stronger from it. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sphinx. Found something. Communications intercept from Briggs. He's not giving orders. He's taking them. Following up the chain now. Another text seconds later. Source is military contractor, company called Sentinel Strategic Solutions. CEO is former CIA. Name, Marcus Reeves. Sophia showed Wright the messages. You know that name? Reeves. Yeah. He ran covert operations in Eastern Europe during the Cold War. Retired from CIA in 1994. Started Sentinel Strategic Solutions as a private contractor. They do security consulting for government agencies. How much government work? Billions in contracts over the past 20 years, State Department, Pentagon, Homeland Security. If there's classified work that needs contractor support, Sentinel gets the bid. Because Reeves has leverage, knows where the bodies are buried, can't be removed without exposing everyone he's worked with. Wright's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going pale. When? How many? Understood. He hung up, looked at Sophia. Michigan surveillance team just reported contact. 3 individuals approached your sister's house, armed, professional movement. Federal agents intercepted them before they reached the property. Casualties? 2 suspects dead, 1 in custody. Your family's safe. Sophia felt relief and rage in equal measure. Relief that Amanda and her children were unharmed. Rage that the network had actually tried to hurt them. I want to interrogate the survivor. He's being transported to federal facility now. Should arrive in, I don't care when he arrives. I want to be there when he does. They drove to the Federal Detention Center in downtown Washington. The captured operative arrived 30 minutes later. Mid-30s, military bearing, professional even with his hands cuffed and his face bruised from the arrest. Sophia watched through the glass as Matthews began the interrogation. Name? Silence. You're facing federal charges, conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, weapons violations. You're looking at 40 years minimum. Help yourself. Give me names. The operative smiled. You don't understand how this works. I don't know any names. That's the point. Compartmentalization. I get orders through encrypted channels. Execute them. Get paid. That's it. Who pays you? Shell company. Different one each time. Money appears in my account. Work gets done. Money disappears. Clean. You tried to kidnap a federal witness's family. That's not clean. I was hired to deliver a message. That's all. What message? That nowhere is safe. That the network reaches everywhere. That resistance is temporary, but consequences are permanent. Matthews was getting nowhere. Sophia could see it. This operative was trained to resist interrogation, wouldn't break under standard questioning. She opened the door and walked into the interrogation room. Matthews started to object, but Wright, who'd followed her, shook his head. Let her work. Sophia sat down across from the operative, studied him. You were SEAL Team 6, she said quietly. I can tell from the way you move, from the confidence, from the training that shows even when you're trying to hide it. The operative's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened slightly. Recognition of a peer. What happened? Sophia continued. Why'd you leave the teams for contract work? Money, better pay, less politics. No, that's what you tell yourself. But the real reason is you got tired of serving a system that didn't value you, that sent you into impossible situations and then forgot you existed the moment you came home. Now he was listening. I understand that, Sophia said. I've been there. The invisible operator. The person who does the hard work while others take credit. The professional who gets dismissed because you don't fit their narrative of what a warrior looks like. You're trying to build rapport. Won't work. I'm not trying anything. I'm telling you the truth. The network you work for, they're using that resentment, that feeling of being undervalued. They promise better pay, better respect, better recognition. But it's a lie. You don't know what you're talking about. Marcus Reeves founded Sentinel Strategic Solutions 30 years ago. In that time, he's built an empire on the backs of operators like you. Operators who do the actual work while he collects billions in government contracts. You're not valued. You're disposable. The moment you become a liability, he'll erase you like you never existed. The operative's jaw tightened. Sophia leaned forward. You failed the mission in Michigan. Federal agents stopped you. Your teammates are dead. You're in custody. Do you really think Reeves is going to protect you? Do you think he's going to spend resources keeping you quiet? He'll do nothing, because you're already gone to him, already written off. The question is whether you go down alone or take him with you. Silence. Then, what do I get? Reduced sentence, witness protection, a chance to start over instead of dying in federal prison. I want it in writing. Matthews pulled out a cooperation agreement. The operative read it carefully. Signed. Marcus Reeves runs the network, he said, has for years. Morrison was just the public face, the official who provided government legitimacy. But Reeves made the decisions, directed the operations, managed the money. Where is he now? Private compound, Montana. Middle of nowhere, 100 acres, armed security. The place is a fortress. You've been there? Twice. For operational briefings. Reeves likes to meet high-value contractors in person, says it builds trust. Can you describe the compound's security? For the next 2 hours, the operative detailed everything he knew about Reeves's operation. The compound layout, the security measures, the communication protocols, the command structure. By the time he finished, Sophia had enough information to plan an assault. Wright was waiting outside the interrogation room. We need to move fast, Sophia said, before Reeves realizes his Michigan team failed. Federal raid on a private compound requires significant planning, warrants, coordination. That takes time. We don't have time. Every hour we wait, Reeves gets more paranoid, increases security, destroys evidence. What are you suggesting? Unofficial approach? Small team, surgical strike, get Reeves into custody before he knows we're coming. That's illegal without proper authorization. Morrison's arrest was legal and proper. Didn't stop the network from trying to kill my family 6 hours later. Sometimes legal and proper isn't fast enough. Wright considered this for a long moment. Then he made a call. 20 minutes later, Sophia was in a briefing room with 6 operators she'd never met, but immediately recognized as Tier 1 assets. The kind of professionals who worked off-book missions that never appeared in official reports. The team leader, a woman named Torres with the kind of calm competence that came from years of high-risk operations, listened to Sophia's intelligence brief without interruption. Montana compound, heavy security, high-value target. 0 official authorization, Torres summarized. Sounds like Tuesday. Can you do it? Can we get in, grab Reeves, and get out without starting a war? Probably. Can we do it in a way that holds up in court? That's harder. I just need him alive and talking. Lawyers can sort out the rest. Torres looked at her team. They nodded. We're in. When do we move? Tonight, before Reeves realizes his Michigan operation failed. They flew to Montana on a private aircraft. No manifests, no flight plans, nothing official. Landed at a small airfield 2 hours from Reeves's compound and transferred to civilian vehicles. The approach took another 3 hours. Slow, careful, using terrain to mask their movement. By the time they reached observation distance, it was nearly midnight. Sophia studied the compound through night vision optics. The operative's description had been accurate. A main house, 3 outbuildings, high fence, roving security patrols, camera coverage, professional setup, but not impenetrable. Primary objective is Reeves, Torres said quietly. Secondary objective is any documentation we can grab. Tertiary is getting out clean. Rules of engagement? Defend if necessary. Otherwise, this is a snatch operation. Minimal noise, minimal casualties. The team moved at 0200 hours. 6 operators plus Sophia moving through the darkness like ghosts. They bypassed the fence using a gap in camera coverage the operative had identified. Neutralized the roving patrol with tranquilizer darts. Quiet, non-lethal, effective. Reached the main house without triggering alarms. Torres positioned her team at entry points while Sophia moved to Reeves's bedroom window. She could see him inside, older man, late 60s, sleeping soundly in expensive sheets. Not for long. Torres gave the signal. 3 entry teams breached simultaneously, flash crash grenades, controlled chaos, operators flooding through doorways with overwhelming speed. Reeves woke to find 6 weapons aimed at his face. "Marcus Reeves, you're under arrest for conspiracy, racketeering, and multiple counts of murder," Torres said calmly. Reeves didn't panic, didn't fight, just looked at Sophia with something approaching respect. "The nurse from Portland, I should have known. You should have stayed hidden." "I've been hidden for 30 years. But Morrison got sloppy, drew too much attention. I knew someone would eventually trace the network back to me." "Then why didn't you run?" "Because running is admission of guilt. Staying is power. Besides," he smiled, "you think arresting me ends this? The network is bigger than me, bigger than Morrison, bigger than any individual. Then I'll spend the rest of my career dismantling it piece by piece." They extracted Reeves without resistance. His security team never even knew he was gone until they found his empty bedroom the next morning. By the time the sun rose, Reeves was in federal custody in Washington, D.C., and Torres's team had disappeared back into whatever shadows they'd emerged from. 3 days later, Sophia stood in the Senate chamber watching the public hearings begin. Morrison sat at one table with his attorneys, Castellano at another, having turned state's witness. Briggs had been arrested that morning, brought in wearing his full dress uniform, like the arrest was some kind of ceremony. And Reeves sat alone, calm and composed, watching the proceedings with the detached interest of someone who'd always known this day might come. Senator Patricia Valdez, chair of the Oversight Committee, gavelled the hearing to order. "This committee is convened to investigate allegations of systematic corruption within the Department of Defense and related intelligence agencies. We will hear testimony from multiple witnesses regarding what has been termed Operation Nightfall, a criminal conspiracy spanning multiple decades." The first witness was Castellano. He detailed the network's formation, the initial compromises, the gradual expansion into something monstrous. The second witness was the operative from Michigan. He described the contract work, the missions, the targets. The third witness was Sophia. She walked to the witness table, raised her right hand, and swore to tell the truth. Then she told them everything: the hospital attack, the assassination attempts, the threats against her family, Morrison's personal involvement, Reeves's command structure, the entire conspiracy laid out in methodical, damning detail. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Valdez spoke first. "Commander Blake, you put your life at risk repeatedly to expose this corruption. Why?" Sophia thought about Richards and Jackson and the young corpsmen. Thought about Vance bleeding out on the courthouse steps. Thought about every person who died because powerful men decided their secrets were more important than human lives. "Because someone had to," she said simply. "Because injustice doesn't fix itself. Because the quietest people, the ones nobody pays attention to, sometimes see things that everyone else misses. And when they speak up, the world changes. Do you believe justice will be served?" "I believe we have a chance now. That's more than we had before." The hearings continued for 6 weeks. Every day brought new revelations, new arrests, new evidence of corruption that had infected the highest levels of government. Morrison was convicted on 18 counts, sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. Briggs was convicted on 12 counts, sentenced to 30 years. Castellano received 15 years in exchange for his cooperation. Reeves fought every charge, hired the best attorneys, delayed and obstructed and challenged every piece of evidence. But the evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted on 37 counts and sentenced to life in federal prison without possibility of parole. The network collapsed. Assets frozen. Contractors arrested. Shell companies dissolved. It wasn't complete destruction. Networks like that never died entirely. But it was damage they wouldn't recover from in a generation. 3 months after the final conviction, Sophia returned to Portland. The media circus had finally died down. The reporters had moved on to other stories. The world had started forgetting. But Mercy Point Naval Hospital remembered. They'd rebuilt Ward 9B, created a memorial in the lobby for Richards, Jackson, and Corporal David Martinez, the young corpsman whose name Sophia had finally learned. She stood in front of that memorial reading the plaque. "These men died protecting others. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten." "They made me put that up," a voice said behind her. Sophia turned. Davies, the Marine corporal who'd watched her fight that first night, stood there in civilian clothes, walking without crutches now. "How's the leg?" she asked. "Better. Physical therapy's a pain, but I'll be back to full duty in a few months." He looked at the memorial. "I think about that night a lot. What you did. What they died for." "I think about it too. The other guys, the ones who called you Ghost, who made fun of you, they can't stop talking about it now. About how they completely misjudged you. People see what they expect to see. Until you show them something different." Davies met her eyes. "I heard you're not coming back to nursing, that you're taking a position with some government oversight agency. Inspector General's office, Congressional Liaison for Intelligence Community Reform. Someone needs to make sure the changes actually stick." "Makes sense. You're good at holding people accountable. I'm good at being underestimated. Turns out that's a useful skill in oversight work." Davies smiled. Then he saluted, sharp, precise, respectful. Sophia returned it. Not as a nurse, as the officer she'd always been. After Davies left, she stood alone in the lobby for a few more minutes, letting herself feel the weight of everything that had happened. Then her phone rang. "Right. I have a situation that needs someone with your particular skills," he said without preamble. "What kind of situation?" "Defense contractor in Texas, possible fraud, possibly worse. But everyone's too afraid to investigate because the company has powerful political connections." "Sounds familiar. Thought you might be interested." Sophia looked at the memorial one last time, at the names of the people who died because corruption went unchallenged. "Send me the file," she said. "I'll start tomorrow." Because that was the work, the endless, necessary work of holding power accountable. And Sophia Blake, the quiet nurse who'd been underestimated her entire career, who'd been dismissed and mocked and ignored, had discovered she was very, very good at it. She walked out of Mercy Point Naval Hospital into the Portland afternoon. The city looked different now, or maybe she looked different. Maybe both. Her phone buzzed, text from Amanda. "The kids want to know when Aunt Sophia is coming to visit. They're telling all their friends their aunt is a superhero." Sophia smiled and typed back, "Tell them superheroes are fictional. I'm just someone who refused to stay quiet." Amanda's response, "Same thing, as far as they're concerned. Come visit soon. Love you." "Love you too," Sophia sent back. She got in her car and drove toward her new apartment, her new life, her new purpose. The network was broken, but not destroyed. There would be more fights, more corruption to expose, more powerful people who thought they were untouchable. And Sophia would be there, watching, waiting, building cases that couldn't be dismissed, being the person nobody saw coming. Because the world needed people like that. People who understood that real power wasn't loud or flashy or obvious. Real power was quiet determination, was seeing what others missed, was refusing to accept injustice just because everyone else had given up. She thought about the young nurse she'd pretended to be, the ghost. The person nobody noticed. That person was gone now. Replaced by someone who'd learned that being underestimated was only a disadvantage if you accepted that assessment. If you didn't accept it, if you used it, weaponized it, turned it into tactical advantage, then being underestimated became the most dangerous thing in the world. Morrison had learned that lesson too late. Briggs had learned it. Reeves had learned it. And somewhere, right now, another corrupt official was making decisions that hurt people, was assuming they'd never face consequences, was believing they were too powerful to fall. They were wrong. They just didn't know it yet. But they would. Because Sophia Blake was watching, and the quiet ones, the ones everyone dismissed and ignored and underestimated, they were always the most dangerous. The world just kept forgetting that lesson. Until someone reminded them. Again. And again. And again. For as long as it took. Sophia turned on the radio. News coverage of the latest political scandal. Different names, different crimes. Same fundamental problem. People in power abusing that power because they thought nobody could stop them. She smiled. Someone could stop them. Someone would. And that someone had just gotten very good at her job. The road stretched out ahead of her, full of possibilities, full of purpose, full of the kind of meaningful work that most people never found. She'd been underestimated her entire life. She wouldn't waste a single second of what came next. The quiet nurse was gone. The force for justice had arrived, and she was just getting started.